Hi, how are you? Welcome to another Friday Heavy Metallurgy number 136. I'm Marty. How you doing? Good to see y'all. And it's good to see you, Alan. What's
Good
new?
to see you too, Marty. Except I'm on the wrong side of the screen. I'm always on that side.
Oh, but you're also cult.
I am. I'm too cool for color tonight.
Folks, we all tried to do this and I couldn't do it. Kellen even tried to help me do it. I couldn't figure it out. And Alan's the only smart one. He's a PC user, so that's probably why. They have extra stuff.
30 seconds in and you've already thrown your computer and Kellen under the bus.
Kellen, the computer, I love Apple. I don't care. I love Macs.
Yeah, I do too. I use them. I'm one of those weird people. I've had to use both, so I've just gotten used to both. But it's all good. We thought it would be fun for tonight's topic to dial down the old color saturation just a bit.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see everybody. Thanks for the good turnout on the Scott Burns interview last week. It was a lot of fun. Pretty good time, good turnout, a lot of views. Thank you so much. And Wednesday nights too, also fun. And we're looking forward to tonight as well. What have we got going on tonight, Alan?
Oh, we've got a returning guest. He's been very excited to rejoin us. His work schedules just take some time. He's also over in Europe, so he is staying up very late to make this work.
Poor guy.
But let's bring him on in. We've got Dan from the Corroseum website, and there he is.
Yes,
hey, Dan.
Here again. Hi guys.
Great to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for joining us again. Had lots of cool show topics. We've been bouncing back and forth, and we decided for tonight we'd go with this one. But yes, you've got a good list for many reappearances once we get into 2024. We hope.
Absolutely. What's been going on in Sweden?
Lots of snow. We had like minus 18 degrees Celsius until a few days ago. So it was really fucking cold. Now it's getting better, but no, it's okay.
Life in the north. Snow is to be expected. It's a hazard of the job.
It is indeed.
Yep.
Marty, how much snow you got?
It was 50 some degrees today. It's all but melted. We had a good almost a foot, and then it's all gone. Yep, I'm sure it's the calm before the storm. Of course, they're saying supposed to be a mild winter, so we'll see.
Yeah. For everyone in America, by the way, minus 18 Celsius puts it right about 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So, that cold.
It was cold.
Yes, we got to 37 degrees Fahrenheit here.
Yeah.
We might have got to we got to 29 Fahrenheit one night. We did get below freezing.
Those numbers mean nothing to me. Fahrenheit, I had no idea whatsoever.
American.
Okay. Well, here we've got. I can fix that. Let's see, 29 Fahrenheit. We got to minus 1 Celsius.
Oh, you poor sods.
Just barely. Got the old unit converter up here on another tab. But yeah, hello to everybody coming into the chat. Good to see lots of the regular folks. Some folks have been chatting about the next album club entry, so folks are already working on their homework for that next Wednesday. Marty, I want to remind folks what y'all are talking about next Wednesday for those who want to join.
Kellen picked Today's a Day in the Eyes of God. So, and Jim's not going to be here, but he was sending media messages saying this is noisy hardcore bullshit. So he's like, not metal at all. I would be protesting if I was there live.
I'm kind of sad Jim's not going to be there now. That could be a fun indifference of opinion.
Yep.
It's often that Jim goes off. It's not very often that Jim goes off on a record either. So a missed opportunity. Yep. But that's not what we're here for tonight. Dan had again nice set of topics, but we decided we would talk about records with black and white cover art. It's kind of like a very wide open topic. We can kind of go in lots of different directions. But Dan, what made you think of this particular topic?
Well, I guess first of all, I don't think it's like just like a random arbitrary design choice X for your record sleeves and just pick anything. I mean, for me, and I guess this goes for all three of us here and people in our, generation or age group, that we sort of grew up with the bigger bands who released the classic albums on the big labels and everything, and you very rarely saw any like monochrome black and white album sleeves. Those were, whenever you come across an album like that, it was usually like punk or hardcore or some weird stuff that the goth kids listen to.
Yeah.
And for me, I think rediscovering like classic heavy metal or 80s heavy metal in like the mid-late 90s and starting looking for the more obscure stuff that I missed back when I was a kid, you started to discover these sort of weird looking albums here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of them turned out to be in black and white, which was really weird because this was not the normal way to do it for metal back then. There are, later genres which sort of adopted this this graphic discipline, but for me, I think it had a lot to do with discovering the new wave of British heavy metal as well, which I only did for real, like in the late 90s. And, like weird private pressings. And for a lot of, at least the records I'm going to talk about today, I don't think it was a conscious design choice. It was because of budget.
Mm-hmm.
And still, the result turned out bloody perfect.
Yep.
And you sort of associate some of these designs with a certain sound, and you associate black and white with, sort of primitive, primeval form of true steel. So whenever I came across a real metal album, at least back in the days, with just a black and white sleeve, you found something sort of special and interesting. So yeah, and I've always appreciated a bit of raw primitivism and amateur charm in metal. So for me, it was a great choice, and I've found so many cool albums to talk about. So
yeah, I stopped at like 30 or 40. I'm like, I gotta put some of these back. Okay, I gotta pick a theme here or something, or I'll just keep going forever. Because yeah, there's a ton of stuff that's been done this way.
Yep.
Yeah, Marty, what do you think about the black and white layout? You do a lot of design and stuff with your work. So how does it strike you?
I mean, I went into this mission. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to pick any black metal, and come to find out, it's hard. It was hard for me. I don't have hardly any new wave of British heavy metal other than the classics that were put out, like Judas Priest and, colored covers. I'm like, this will be no problem. Death metal typically has color covers or a colored logo on it or a red box around the black and white moniker. It's like, damn it. And like, well, I had to break. I got a little mix of everything, but
cool.
For me, I think the black and white aesthetic, Dan is right. I think early on it might have been a budgetary thing. They just made stencils or whatever was cheap and easy. Someone could do at the label, or paying an artist wasn't typically in the budget. As time has gone on, and obviously technology has developed, color is easy to do, and they don't really charge you any different for just black and white. I mean, if you're going to get an album produced, whatever the artwork is, it's got color on it, it costs you more. That's not a thing. So I think nowadays it's an aesthetic choice. It's cult, if you will. And it has become, like Dan said, it used to be something special to come across. Ooh, this must be, true steel or whatever. But nowadays it has become kind of a tired kind of aesthetic. I still like it. If it's a good striking image, it rules. But the black metal scene kind of ran that to Valhalla and set it on fire.
Yeah.
They've kind of taken that and really made it their own in modern times.
Yeah. What do you think?
There's a lot of great examples of that from the black metal scene. I'm not so into it that I could come up with examples, but I hope we do get to see some classics from Marty tonight.
I tried to
I'm
steer
sure
away
we'll-
from obvious. There's a couple obvious ones here, but I don't know. I just went through and picked some stuff just to talk about the records, I guess. So we'll see.
That's
It'll be
quite
fun.
right. Yeah.
What do you think
Yeah, I
about
think
it, Alan?
Yeah, I think definitely budget on those early like 7-inch picture sleeves and stuff. That's a great point, Dan. That's definitely a big part of it. I think part of it too, though, is black has always been kind of the primary color associated with heavy metal. Period. I mean, from the get go with Black Sabbath, you already had it there in the band name that kind of kickstarted things. But I mean, also in terms of black leather jacket, biker jackets, all that kind of stuff. And even from kind of the weird psychological standpoint that heavy metal was kind of supposed to be the evil stuff. Well, you associate the color black with that. It's supposed to be kind of the underground stuff. You associate darkness with that. It's supposed to be you're out late, you're partying at night. It's all done after dark. So black has always been the primary color. But if you're trying to put a design on something black, you've got to have a color that's going to show up against it. And that rules out a ton of stuff. Your best option is going to be to have white. So the two colors, will just fit together for a lot of design stuff. And, they kind of, reflect a lot of, just the, sort of, heavy metal psychology and, imagery in the first place. Like both of you looking through the racks, a wide variety of stuff. We'll definitely see some, black metal. I'm sure we'll see some new wave of British heavy metal, but you can find stuff in lots of other veins as well. Some big ones, lots of obscure ones. So and I think that's one thing that made it a really fun topic, Dan, was that, it's not like we only have to talk about things before color film was developed, because then it all went away. Or we don't have to only talk about bands who want to be Dark Throne but are less talented than Dark Throne. We can really take this in a lot of directions tonight. So I'm very excited to see what everybody chose. I'll admit I kind of gravitated towards some more weird, obscure ones that would sort of align with the Corroseum mentality and such, since Dan was going to be our guest tonight. But I've got a few outliers from that as well.
It was almost a challenge to find stuff that wasn't totally underground in black and white, but I did find a few, I think. But
that's a good point. Yeah, a lot of them, like Marty said too. Yeah, when you start going through like the catalogs of the bigger bands in your head, pretty much everything has some color to it to some degree. So,
So who's gonna do the Black album then?
Not me.
Forgot to. I could grab it, but no.
I think we can raise the bar a little higher than that.
Yes. But that offends the internet, doesn't it? I mean, if we can't do any underground records which maybe someone doesn't have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, Dan, why don't you get this show? I mean, talking to you guys,
Yes.
I've got a bunch here. I know you guys both have probably way more than I do. So let's why don't you start with your first one, Dan? Let's see what you got.
Yes. When we picked this topic, there were 3 definite choices for me. So I'm going to start with these obvious choices just to, just make sure that I don't, save them towards the end. And I'm going to begin with one of the ones that sort of set me on the path of, loving and appreciating black and white cover art. So this was back in the mid-late 90s. I went to a record show in my hometown of Västerås, and I came across, I was just, rediscovering old 80s metal, and I was looking for weird stuff I'd never seen before. And then I came across, or maybe seen before, but never picked up. And then I came across this amazing, beautiful album, which I've literally never seen before, or no one has ever talked about. And it's to this day one of my absolute favorite heavy metal album sleeves, and a really fucking cool album. And we have to begin with Metal Deadness.
That rule. Look at that cover. That rules.
Oh yeah,
killer art.
The cover art was made by Wim Bayless from Holland. He did a couple of fanzines, and I know he also made like some of the one of the Merciless demo covers as well, and I'm sure he's famous for a lot of our stuff. But anyway, this Metal Deadness, it's not a band, Metal Deadness. It's a split album, and it's my all-time favorite split album. And it's with the two Dutch bands Second Hell and Skull Crusher. And it's, I mean, I don't know how much let's remove the plastic.
It almost looks like a crust punk record.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, the artwork is amazing. And you think you've seen the best, and then you turn it over, and this, I don't know how much detail.
Oh, that border rules.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, it's everything that's cool about metal. Skulls, upside down crosses, 666, demons, zombies. I mean, everything that rules about metal. And musically, I think this is an absolute highlight of sort of early 80s. I mean, it was released in 86, but it was sort of 1 or 2 years behind its time. But musically, both these bands are really fucking cool in my mind. Second Hell on side A, no relation to the sort of obscure pre-Halloween band with the same name. Second Hell were sort of like a proto-death metal band. Their side could be compared to like Possessed, or like the first Necronomicon album, or maybe, you know, Pleasure to Kill with Creator. It's sort of that kind of chaotic pre-Rain in Blood death thrash, and it's really cool. Chaotic drumming, and yeah, it's really brutal stuff. You know, totally musically, you know, death metal 85, 86.
Nice.
The vocals aren't quite as extreme as maybe Creator or Possessed, but you know, almost. But if I had to pick a favorite, gun to my head, of these two bands, I would say Skull Crusher. The guys on the B side, they were sort of like more, I mean, really evil shit, but they were more, maybe the closest comparison would be, you know, the German band Warrant on Noise Records, who made this really cool mini and full length. Is like very. I was actually thinking about bringing this out on our last stream about Eurometal. It's like perfect evil speed metal, like Warrant, and this do sound quite a lot like, you know, like the very early Destruction, and then they mix in this sort of like Merciful Fatey metal riffs in it. And I mean, yeah, I think every single song on this mini album is great, or this split is great. And to this day, I'm still amazed that I see so little. I mean, there are some hype about it. I know a lot of people love this album, but I'm surprised that it isn't more hype than it is. I mean, it was re-released by, I think, was it Nuclear War Now who did the picture disc version?
I've never even heard of that split.
It sounds, I don't know, but it sounds like the kind of thing that
I'm sure there are at least a couple of both official and non-official reissues of it, but it's sort of weird that people aren't putting this more often on their want lists than, you know, let's say like Flames or Hell or anything that isn't really that good. This one is amazing. One of those Bring to My Grave albums. If you like really evil, obscure, like European, like dark speed metal, early proto-death, it's so cool. And I mean, I know a number of fanzines actually stole this border. I've seen it in many issues from like black metal fanzines. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And also, I stole a lot of it for the Corroseum logo or the Corroseum banner. It was my like first choice to build on with all the other shit that I stole. So yeah, one of my all-time fucking favorite albums, Metal Deadness split.
Very cool to see. Never seen it. Very cool.
I mean, if you like Possessed, Destruction, early Creator.
Yeah.
You know,
gee, I don't know.
Get it?
Do we like those bands, Marty?
No.
You know, maybe you can take it or leave it. No, that's a really, really cool way to start.
That's a funny way to say Halloween. Must be a Swedish pronunciation. I don't know.
Did they sound anything like Hammerfall?
Right on.
That's the one band I can trigger Dan with pretty easy.
All right, Alan, what you got? What's your first one? Of course, everything you're going to show is black and white, so you could be lying to us all. It doesn't matter.
Yep. Judas Priest, Defenders of the Faith, rare original black and white cover version. No, yeah. First one I want to pick. There's a reason for this because this actually has kind of a little trump card for the topic with it. But we're going to start with Cleveland's Breaker and their only album, Get Tough. Yep, big scary
nice
black and white. Yep. But yeah, this was one on Auburn Records. Really good band. They had that classic kind of Ohio Cleveland sound. A lot of those bands on Auburn, had that kind of very tough blue collar, straightforward heavy metal sound. Really good vocalist in Jim Hamar. Even everything on the back covers, black and white band pictures too. And again, this came out in '87, which is a little late for a black and white cover in some ways. The band had been around for a few years before it came out, so it took them a while to get to the LP stage. But yeah, excellent album, tons of good tracks. But the coup de grace for why I'm showing this one first is that we not only have a great black and white cover by a great band, but track 2 on side 2 is called Black and White. Drop the mic. I'm done. Yes. And it's actually a really good song too. But yeah, everything on here is pretty solid. Get Tough is very good. Razor's Edge is good. What else have we got? Yeah, Wait from the Night. Lie to Me. Just excellent album. They were very into Accept. There's a little bit of an Accept influence, but just with a much cleaner sounding vocalist. They even did an EP years later that was entitled Accept. Just obvious nod to their influences. Yeah, excellent stuff for mid '80s US heavy metal. By '87, this sound wasn't ever going to conquer the world in the United States, which is a shame. Auburn did a lot of good albums that flew just a little under the radar at the time. But if any of that kind of stuff appeals to you and you haven't checked out Breaker, should definitely do so. There's some compilations out there, anthologies. There's some live recordings that you can get. And I don't think any of their stuff is particularly expensive either. At least they have one early single that can be a little more costly, but that's not a really, really high dollar item. So easy to get, easy to hear, classic, great, traditional US metal, and it's all black and white. So I will start with that one, and then I'll, Marty, pass it over to you for your opening salvo of the night.
Well, I had to go with the goat, and Peter said the red eyes, it doesn't qualify because of the red eyes. Well, my remastered version of Bathory's self-titled doesn't have red eyes. It's black and white. I don't know what pressing this is. I got it from Blackmark back in the late 90s.
I had that pressing, yeah.
Yeah. Yep, classic. I mean, you want to talk about the goat, literally greatest of all time and an actual goat, but I love this cover. It's simplistic mission statement. I mean, you look at the cover, you kind of have an idea what the album's going to sound like. And I think that's the sign of a good cover. Proof of advertising. You should, judge a book by its cover sometimes. That isn't always the case, but in this case, very much so. Basically, the template for second wave black metal, this and a couple other albums, of course, out there by other bands, but yeah, Bathory with a little bit of Motorhead worship on here and some other mixes, but love it, classic.
I was going to ask, where do we put that on the Venom Motorhead axis? Because there's always that. I guess that's the debate with the album is how much of it's Venom, how much of it's Motorhead, and how much of it is unfair to compare to those two.
Yeah,
I don't know. I never thought it sounded that much like Venom. I mean, maybe underneath the playing and production, if you listen closely, but the playing style and production was sort of different. And to me, the first battery beats any Venom album. Because I mean, sure, I like Venom, but I mean, they were sort of grimy in a way that never made me fall in love with them. But the first Bathory album, it's just perfect. It feels. I mean, it has the speed and everything. And someone was name dropping Discharge. It has sort of like the speed of some like hardcore punk back then, but it sounds zero hardcore. It obviously has a lot of hardcore influences, but they managed to take the speed and it's weird to say it, but tightness compared to Venom.
Venom was, I mean, Abaddon or Abaddon's drumming is terrible. He could not keep meter. He was bad.
Yeah, but they managed to take that.
It worked.
Managed to take the sort of hardcore punk thing without, making you think of hardcore punk whatso fucking ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotta say, listen to the song Sacrifice. That locomotive chug to that song, it's got a chug to it. It reminds me of Motorhead. If you put Lemmy singing that song, it could have been a harder edged Motorhead track. I don't know.
Armageddon will always be my number one track from that album. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see where some people compare it to those for different reasons, but at the same time, I think it's kind of also does have its own sound a bit already. It's not completely derivative from either of those end members. But yeah, okay. Let's see then. I guess Dan, we are back to you.
Oh, good. Okay, I was talking about bringing up my first 3 albums were also the first 3 ones I thought about when we decided on this topic. And so number 2 for today is huge favorite. I'm a big fan of Italian metal and black and white covers. And we have to talk about Adramelch. And if you look at this sleeve, which metal genre would you associate a sleeve like this with? You get one guess.
Death metal.
No, I mean the sleeve design of this just screams to me. It sort of like looks like a Norwegian black metal forest thing. Yeah. Sort of. Even the logo could have been a black metal logo. Musically, though, this was released in 1988. And Adramelch Irae Mellanox is probably one of the greatest epic metal albums ever made. And I know that Marty, we talked about Dark Quarter on the last stream. Yeah, and this would be sort of like that's the closest comparison I can come to. But these guys were sort of like more speed metal, but absolutely amazing, epic, speed power metal. And I don't remember where I heard it, but I always love the description of Adramelch. Adramelch were the anti-Halloween. Sorry. Because they're totally in the same genre as Keeper of the Seven Keys, but the extreme opposite as far as mood and vibe goes. This is so bloody highbrow and serious and depressive, but it's super melodic, epic power metal with a lot of sort of like progressive tendencies. And I know that a lot of people actually give this album some credit for being one of the pre-90s power metal, epic power metal scene starters, for good reason. I mean, and this today I don't see it getting as much love as maybe Dark Quarter, because that album sort of exploded in the underground. This one probably sold a couple of thousand more copies, but it's totally unique album. And if you look at the lineup picture, also says a lot. What kind of mood were to expect? These are serious guys. These guys don't fuck around. Yeah. And it's very atypical of the 80s sort of power metal scene. It's fantastic melodies. The lyrics are genius. I mean, the only weak part would probably be like the mix and the production. It's sort of like on the same screechy level as the Darkwater debut. But yeah, I think a lot of people would I know this is a very loved album by a lot of people for a good reason, and anyone who's are into that kind of stuff and who, for some reason, have missed out on Adramelch, it's a shame. This is a must-hear album, and I think the choice of doing it in black and white and doing this kind of sleeve, which looks like nothing that was released in like '88 or around that time, it's perfect. It suits the music perfect. I think the CD, maybe even the original CD or the CD reissue was sort of like a red logo, and all this was blue, and yeah, it doesn't give the same vibe, I think. So yeah, one of my all-time favorites and one of my all-time favorite black and white sleeves. Have you heard it, guys?
I just wrote it down because I've never heard of it, so I'm gonna check that one out for sure.
Yeah, I've heard it. It's been a long time since I played it. I think the version I've seen has always had the red and blue color scheme, which you're right is a really kind of it's not a very good looking color scheme for it in a way. But yeah, it looks much better in the black and white version there. And yeah, you're right. It's a lot of people love it. It is a hard album to describe. I remember I didn't check it out for a long time just because the descriptions I read always seemed very confused. It was just like, it's kind of power metal, but kind of proggy, but kind of different and has a weird production. I'm like, this could sound like anything based on some of this.
I didn't fall in love with it the first time I played it. It sort of grew on me, but still, the songwriting is amazing. I mean, all the songs are so cool.
Yeah, I don't think it's an album you listen to and it just immediately clicks. It didn't with me, I can say it for sure.
All right, Alan, what's your next?
All right. Well, we mentioned there would be a few outliers, and I'm actually going to do an outlier one kind of early because I don't think it's fair to talk black and white albums without bringing this one up because they started their career in black and white and did 3 albums in black and white, and it's known as their black and white phase. Blue Oyster Cult. So yeah, early heavy metal, kind of, sort of. Even by 70s standards, they were called heavy metal. A lot of people considered them heavy metal. They didn't like the tag, but bands don't seem to like any particular tag, so take it for what you will. But yeah, their first 3 albums famously, stuck to, kind of, black and white artwork, but always had, cool designs. I picked this one for no particular reason other than it doesn't get talked about maybe as much as the other 2. So I figured we'd break this one out. Yeah, debut from 72. Even though it doesn't get talked up as much, there's a lot of songs that are instantly recognizable on it, starting with, Transmaniacon, MC, of course. You've got one of my personal favorites, kind of one of the songs that gets overlooked, is Then Came the Last Days of May. Talking about guy, basically a drug buy gone bad out in the middle of nowhere, which was allegedly based on a true story they read about. Really good song. Just, it's very eerie, very sad, kind of somber. They do a great job setting the atmosphere with that one. But you got, Workshop of the Telescopes. You also have a couple of, the odd title songs. They were still kind of dipping their toe in those, weird late 60s, early 70s psychedelic nonsense, like She's as Beautiful as a Foot. Yeah, I don't think I'd say that to her face, though. Might be sleeping on the couch for a while. But yeah, regardless, the black and white artwork was a big part of this band's, early career, getting them up and running through their next 2 albums. Which they kind of moved from strength to strength across those albums, and built up to what they eventually became as a huge band on the scene. It's okay if you don't consider it heavy metal. It's okay if you do. The bottom line is there's a lot of good music in their catalog to dig through, and wanted to give them at least a brief nod here early for the black and white topic. Seemed only fair since it was such a big thing for them.
Yeah. You're as beautiful as a foot. That's always the song I'm going to remember from that album.
Yeah. You don't
It's the one that
see
sticks
that.
in your head.
It very much struck me as like, the a play on some of the budgie song titles, like there's one about the Docker's armpit or something. Budgie always had a couple of those goofy song titles too. Aaron, help me out. You're in the chat. What's the full title of She's as Smelly as a Docker's Armpit, or Hotter Than a Docker's Armpit? Maybe that's it. Yeah, lots of odd ones there. But yeah, Marty, what have you got second in your stack tonight?
Hot as a Docker's Armpit.
There we go. Thank you, Andy.
Well, since Dan mentioned them, might as well. It was in my stack, so it's kind of I almost didn't pull it because it's got kind of an off white. It's not really a traditional monochrome, but
I think it's close enough to count. Yeah.
Man, this record, I haven't spun this in a while. The first three, for my money, are the best Venom. This year, they're starting to slip a little bit. I don't know if it's the production, kind of a muddy production. I don't know, but it's got Satanicus, good song, Flytrap. I mean, there's some good songs on here. Too Loud for the Crowd. What a great song. Good song. But anyway, yeah, I always thought this was a very odd album cover, but yet kind of cool, kind of creepy, I guess, in a way. I love the band photo on the back. That is just one of the classic. I mean, they were during this era, they were so good at hamming it up for the camera. Very, very cool. But I always like this double image here. Very cool. But yep, the last I don't want to say the last Venom album worth hearing, because that's not true. I do like the Demolition Man era. I don't mind Calm Before the Storm, which is basically the Chronos solo project, but there's some okay stuff on there. Yeah, Hellchild, good song. Harmony Dies. There's some good shit on here, but Possessed.
I should probably revisit that one sometime. It never really fully clicked with me. It felt like, while it wasn't terrible, it kind of felt like the point where Venom was probably starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel for some ideas and maybe starting to recycle a few things. But it's been a long time since I heard it. I never liked I did not like the cover on that one for some reason. Compared to the first three, it felt very, I don't know. It's just like, let's just slap this thing on. That's easy. It's an easy way to try to make something look spooky. That's probably not the least bit spooky. Yeah. So it always kind of sat wrong with me. But Dan, what do you think of it?
I really like the cover. Actually, it's a cool concept. Not very typically metal, but I mean they went for the weird and spooky, and they succeeded. Musically, I think it's quite crappy.
It's not a great album. It's some good stuff on it.
I mean, it's the first Venom album which I didn't buy. I mean, I like pretty much all Venom up until that album, and that one I've never picked up.
What about Primeval? The first with Tony Dillon?
That was their one second shot at glory, but I mean, still, it's all the old stuff and that one. Yeah.
Demolition Man. He gets some hits in there for sure. All right, what you got?
Okay, classic black and white album number 3, which was also an obvious choice, and a huge favorite is. And notice that all these 3 albums are very different in style. So we went from Euro speed proto-death black. We went from that to Italian epic power metal, and then we come to, of course, the one and only Legend from the Fjords.
There it is.
One of the most fucking iconic early US metal or proto-metal or whatever you want to call it, and also one of the most beautiful hard rock and heavy metal album sleeves of all time. And I'll die on that hill. For those who aren't familiar with them, it was released in 1979, and for being an album released in 79 in the US, it is very metal. And the A side of this album is to this day, one of the greatest moments of like epic metal. I mean, all 3 songs: Destroyer, Wizard's Vengeance, Golden Bell. They're absolutely flawless. The B-side is still fucking great. It's a little bit less epic, more along the lines of, let's say, Judas Priest, Rock'n'Rolla, maybe. I don't listen enough to 70s rock to come up with better comparisons, but I mean, it is one of those absolutely iconic albums, and I mean, it's one of those albums when you heard it the first time, you just stood there, just gaping and loving everything about it. The production is great, the vocals are amazing, and I mean, the sleeve art, man. I mean, even the back sleeve is also
it's cover worthy as well.
Oh yeah, it is really cool. I have sort of a funny story how I actually eventually acquired this one. If you get 5 extra minutes.
Oh sure,
absolutely. That's what we're here for.
So I've been looking for it for many years. Was one of my top ones for ages. And
for those who don't know, it's a very, very hard album to find the original of.
Yeah. And something like 10 years ago, this collector colleague from Germany, Andy Preissig, he was in Stockholm, and we met up, and we were at my place, and I was, we were showing us some records and stuff, and I did manage to actually have in my possession 1 or 2 records which he didn't have and he wanted. And we were sort of like discussing a trade, but usually I don't trade from my own collection. And he said, well, what do you want? I'll give you whatever. And I said, well, do you have Legend from the Fjords? Oh, no, we didn't have any double copies of that. But it so happens that at this time, a local record store in Stockholm had a copy on their wall for a lot of money. I mean, market prices back then. And then he said, well, I'll go back. I go to the store and I'll buy the album in the store for you for these albums. And I said, I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, I would never pay market price for that album. So we met up downtown the day after, and I brought 2 records, and he was going to bring the Legend one. And he's, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. I didn't have time to go to the store, but here's the money, cash. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, sure. And suddenly I had in my hand all the cash to actually buy the record. And, I would never in my fucking life, I'm not going to into the amount, but it was more than thrice as much as I've ever paid for a record. And normally I would never pay that much money for an album. But, I left over my own records. I had the cash in my hand, and I was like, nope, this is not money. This is something else. And then I closed my nose and went over to the store, and yeah, there. So it was a trade.
Yeah.
In all senses. Yeah.
Lucky the record was still there, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, very cool. Yep. That's it worked out.
It did.
Yeah. If folks are interested, that one, I know they did a bootleg pressing like 20 years ago.
I had the bootlegs for many years, but it's been, I think there are several official reissues of it, with bonus tracks and everything. So the reissues should be easy to find, and it is a must for anyone who likes, want to hear like the roots of 80s epic metal, and, are into stuff like Manila Road, early Manowar, and, in some sense, early 70s stuff. It is an absolute must. You shouldn't walk through life without hearing fucking From the Fjords.
Yeah. And regarding that, the amazing artwork, Marty, does the artwork look familiar to you?
It kind of looks like Enslaved, doesn't it?
It looks like something Enslaved would do, but I'm thinking more like the style of art, because that artist. The artist very well.
Okay, well, let me
pull it up. It's a very early piece by Ioannis, the one who did the Fates Warning and Leech Lords album covers for Metal Blade in the mid-'80s. Spectre Within. Yeah, Spectre Within, Awaken the Guardian, Burns
I
My
did not
Touch.
know that. Oh yeah.
Those are all, yeah, this is a much earlier piece. If you look, yeah, when you start looking at the details in that legend, you can sort of see some of that same tendency to do the different globes and shapes and stuff.
I don't even need to bring up the album again. Now it makes perfect sense. Yeah, I didn't know that. Really cool.
Yeah, someone pointed it out to me a few years ago because I didn't know it for a long time either. But yeah, same artist, just much earlier in their career.
I got that Legend CD in a stack of CDs from a friend, and I never got around to listening to it, and I gave it to another friend. I kind of regret doing it. I kind of regret doing it now. I wish I could just go waddle over there and grab it and listen to it, but nah, I gave it away. All right. I sometimes do silly things. Ellen.
All right. Let's see. I'll do another different one. This one I thought of because Aaron showed it over on his channel not very long ago with one of his videos, which are excellent as always. Aaron pulled Oliver Magnum's album and gave it the thumbs up, which I was glad to hear. Oliver Magnum was kind of an odd band in a way because they're like, right there, kind of central U.S., like Oklahoma, if I remember correctly.
Scott Waters has showed that recently too.
Oh, okay. I didn't see Scott show it, but yeah, and this came out, late 80s, and they're playing like a very traditional kind of power metal, leaning a little bit into speed metal with like, really high vocals. It sounds like, something that was 3 or 4 years too late to the table and should have been like, a Metal Blade release back around like, in 84 or 85. And, instead it came out much later. They ended up on one of the later Metal Massacre comps. I want to say it was number 9, maybe. And one of them that you don't really think of as being quite that essential. But yeah, this song has, some absolutely blazing stuff. They have a vocalist with, a lot of, very high range, can get, a little shrill for some people, probably.
You're right.
But
you're right. It was on Metal Massacre 9.
Was 9? Okay. Yep. All right. That part of the brain is still working.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to have that for volume, but haven't had it for ages. But yeah, so just such a weird anomaly to have the band out there, right in the heartland of America, that late in the decade, playing something that sounds like Omen or Savage Grace type material. It's just like it's like the whole Manila Road thing over again. It's like, how is a band out in that location doing this at that time? Just doesn't quite make sense. They didn't really get a whole lot of other material out. I know they did some demo material. I used to have a couple of their demos. Some of the guys went on to form the band Forte, who were on Massacre Records in the 90s for a while. They were trying to do like sort of, the 90s style US power metal, which it wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing, but hey, they were at least trying it. Oliver Magnum, they always had the weird name. They always had this little sort of, Winston Smith wannabe piece of artwork. When your competition for mascots, is Vic and Eddie, this is not what you want to bring to the table, guys. It's just not quite gonna, hang with the big dogs there. I'm sorry. Just no. Can't quite do it. Regardless, though, yeah, if you like any of those classic U.S. power metal bands, they get mentioned a lot. But you're ready to dig like just one level deeper, not super deep, not super obscure. Oliver Magnum's a really good one to check out. You got tracks like Sister Cybele, Last Prophet. The version of Old World Nights on here is a different version than what was on Metal Massacre 9. I think the Metal Massacre version is the better one. At the very beginning of that, they had this very tight riff that opens the song just da 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 and they just start going at full speed, and the vocalist comes in with this just incredibly high pitched scream over the top of it. It's just the kind of thing you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's the adrenaline right there. Let's get this thing going. On this version, they don't do the scream. The song still takes off. It's still an outstanding track, but it's missing that extra little just vocal punch in the gut to get the song off the ground at the start. But yeah, I always liked the album. It was really cool to see Aaron pull it up because it's not one you see many people talk about. So Oliver Magnum is my third choice for the night.
Yeah, it's a really cool, very classic, typical US metal album. And I think, these guys used to be like fanzine darlings back in the day. They were in all the fanzines. Everybody loved
were
them.
they? Okay, cool. I didn't know that.
For someone speaking as a fanzine professor, they were everywhere, and I think that sleeve worked against them. I know some friends who have completely avoided that album because it looks like it would be some sort of early 90s alterno metal
or hardcore. It almost looks like a hardcore cover.
Yeah, hardcore. Yep. Also, adult oriented metal style that sort of developed in the mid 90s. But it's much better than that. Very much comparable to the mid late 80s stuff in the US. So cool album.
Yep. Yeah, Jack, that's another good song. Yep, indeed. Good stuff. All right, Marty, your turn.
All right. Well, since we had Scott Burns on last week, I wanted to talk about this album with him, but we never got around to it. But Suck Misery Index, man, this album just rips, and it sounds so good. It seems like the stuff that he had the least amount of time to work on is the stuff that really stands out for me. I mean, Terrorizer, they're recording today. This thing they recorded in a very short period of time as well. But man, I just love the fact that how raw it is. You could tell they played live. They played it live, and you can hear the bass, that blower bass, and every piece on the drum kit. It's just great grind, awesome grindcore. Sadly, they're long gone, but they put out some awesome stuff. This isn't a great record. It's a hard hitter from beginning to end. This is the type of grind I like. It's got a little bit of a punk vibe to it. Classic for me, and I love the sound of it. Scott did a great job on helping with this one. I think one of the guys in the band was also like a co-engineer on this, but I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, I think I don't know if he went on to do engineering, but he definitely. I remember Scott mentioned that. Yeah, one of the guys was like really glued to the board with him. A lot working on the details for that one.
Great record, crushing grindcore. Love it. All right, Dan, you are back.
I am back. Okay. So we're gonna go to the
Steve Heritage. Sorry. What? I read that book in 16 hours. The details were anyway. I'm sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So we sort of associate, at least we collectors of 80s metal, we sort of associate the black and white covers with obscure private pressings. So here's a typical one, which I actually picked up at Dave Constable's old vinyl store, which he used to have in Stockholm in like the early 2000s, because Dave Constable from the Metal Forces guy. I mean, he's lived in Sweden since like the late 90s, and sometime in the early 2000s he started up actually not one but two record stores on the same street, like in the middle of the center of Stockholm. One CD store and one vinyl store, and the vinyl store was amazing because he brought out all this sort of like weird stuff he got as promos for Metal Forces through the years, and me and some friends picked up some fucking amazing stuff there. Not Wages of Sin, but one of the greatest finds back then, and to this day, one of my favorites, especially from Canada, is this mini album with a band, one of many, called Overlord. I think this was released in 85. It's a 4-song mini album from 85 or 86, which to me never got the praise it always deserved. Musically, this is, I would describe this as like mystic metal. It's a really unique sound. The first track, X-Rated Man, it's the odd one out. It sounds more like, rocking 70s priest. But the 3 other songs, Messiah Comes, Distant Orphan, and Endless Sun, are like this really unique, like really serene, epic, almost doomy metal with very high vocals, of the typical, style that all US metal fans love, or maybe going a bit sour for a few seconds on one song or two, but the music is really unique to me. This one beats that living crap out of other classics like Black Knight or Witch Killer or whatever. It's a really unique album, and actually, this was the first album I ever reviewed on the internet for the old site Metal Treasures, the old Austrian site. So the first time I got to know the guys at Metal Treasures back then in the early 2000s, and communicated some with one of the Charlies who had a site, and I was like, oh, can I write reviews? Oh, cool. Yeah, and the first one I ever wrote was this one, and now it's on the Corroseum, of course. But and this actually led me to getting in contact with actually the girl who painted this amazing this dragon actually sent me an email, and we had some contact, and even I think the guitar player as well, and I sort of helped them reconnect or whatever. But it was fun back in the early days, before Web 2.0 and social media and everything, where people actually got in contact by someone emailed someone else on the other side of the globe. So funny story, but I mean, this is doesn't get as much love as it deserves. Overlord from Canada, one of those really underrated obscure private pressings from the 80s. So can't recommend it enough if you like unique mood-filled metal.
Very nice. Yeah, I think that's one of those releases that suffers a little bit because, as you said, there's so many overlords. Eventually, I think people just give up trying to remember which one is which. It's just like, have you heard Overlord? Hell, I don't know. Probably.
Yes.
Like, I've heard something by a band called Overlord. I have no idea if it's the band you're talking about or not. It's yeah, it can be annoying that way.
Yeah. And it's even 2 Overlord as well. Yep. That's weird. Yeah.
Yep, he is Overlord, and then there's Overlord E and Overlord E2 and Overlord 1. Overlord E1 sued Overlord E2 over their name, and so Overlord E2 had to change theirs to like Overlord ESR or something.
And both those bands were fucking awesome as well.
Yeah, just it goes nuts. Dan, did you that Overlord? Your Canadian Overlord.
The Canadian ones, yeah.
Yes. Did I see they did an album? I kind of remembered, but I never checked it out. They did an album in 2021. Did you ever check that one out?
No, I wasn't aware of it. I know that they had a lot of demo songs, and back then they had sort of like a homemade CDR with old demo songs and stuff. I probably had it on my computer, but I haven't listened to it in a while. I mean, this one I bring out quite often. It's a huge favorite, but I haven't heard the new stuff. No.
Okay, I don't. Yeah, it's a 2021 release, just independent. It's called When Worlds Collide. There's really not any notes on it, so I don't know if it's just the demo tracks. I'm trying to see if it had like the. Doesn't look like it had the EP tracks on it. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's new material or compilation of old stuff. I just noticed it over on Metal Archives.
Definitely need to check that one out. Yeah.
Yeah, I vaguely remember it coming out, but I never did track it down or listen to it. So I have nothing else to say on it. But I was hoping you did. But
no, I'm so bad at keeping track of all these, reunion releases.
It's impossible to.
I've been burned too many times.
Right? Yes. Cough, cough, Witchfinder General. Cough, cough.
No, I fucking love that album, and I hate you for not loving it. We're gonna have a 4-hour debate someday about.
Oh, gee, guys, it's been a lot of fun. thanks to Dan for showing up here. Sorry about those last few comments. He got a little unhinged there, but no, we'll give him a chance to come back.
He's got the power of the hammer, Dan. It's not fair.
All right. We'll have that debate.
What you got, Alan?
I put down my drink. Okay, here's another one. We're getting the 2-for-1 from the Metal Theologian channel tonight, because this was another thing that Aaron mentioned recently, although this is a different release by the band. Aaron was going through been going through his 7-inch phase lately, showing lots of cool singles and talking about them on different videos. And one he talked about was Bitch's Sin. I didn't pull the 7-inch because I don't have it. I pulled a later compilation called The First Temptation, which has a black and white cover, very similar to the picture sleeve on the 7-inch. Different picture, same lady, same guitar, same thing going on there with the guitar. But this basically combines their demo. The demo always stood out because it had the unusual title of 12 Pounds and No Kinks, which they apparently took the name from a classified ad they saw in the back of the adult section of a London newspaper. So I don't know. I wonder, was 12 pounds a good deal back then? I don't know, and I probably don't need to, so we'll just leave that be. But it also has let's see, so yeah, that's tracks 1 through 7. Tracks 8 through 11 are their BBC session. And, Aaron pointed out, and rightfully so, that the single is fine. It's fine. It is not really, heralded as one of, the top tier 7-inch singles of the era. It's not awful. It's not the most memorable one either. And, they end up going from Neat for the single over to the heavy metal label for their first album, Predator, which is widely considered a bit of a flop of an album. It just is missing something. Those songs have always struck up most listeners as pretty dull overall. And it's kind of a shame because, then it cost the band a lot of momentum. They put out more stuff later on. And the funny thing is they did have a lot of killer material. It somehow just didn't show up on those first couple of vinyls. For instance, a lot of stuff on this 12 Pounds and No Kinks demo is much better than what's on the single. It's much rawer, more high energy. The BBC session blows the doors off the place. The first one they do, Down the Road, is just a barn burner of a track. It's just, full out proto speed metal, just, high octane stuff. Amazing. Why isn't that on the 7-inch? I don't know. Should have been. Why didn't they sound like that during the Predator sessions? I don't know. The band kind of rotated around a pair of brothers, and notoriously they had a lot of trouble keeping a stable lineup for any length of time. So maybe that was part of the issue. But even some of the later stuff they did, and getting into the mid 80s, they still did get other albums out. There's one called Invasion, I think. A lot of good stuff on it, but it was just way too late at that point. When your first single is kind of meh and your first album's a flop, and then it's 1986 and everybody's listening to Napalm Death and getting ready for Carcass to take over, Bitch's Sin just isn't going to get any attention at that point. But I just always like to point out because they're overlooked. They actually have a lot of stuff out there, just here and there, different demos they recorded, later chunks of stuff, and a lot of it is quite good. It's just that was the stuff that never got the attention. The records that got the attention with the single and the Predator album are the ones everybody looked at, and those are probably the worst things they recorded. So sometimes you just don't have any luck, and Bitch's Sin is a good example of that. If nothing else, if you like the faster, more energetic new wave of British heavy metal, if nothing else, just hop on YouTube and listen to the 4 songs from the BBC recording session. It's Down the Road, Fallen Star, Hold On to Love, Strangers on the Shore. If you never hear anything else by Bitch's Sin, those 4 tracks, and you've got some of the best stuff they did. So yeah, I wanted to give a little love to Bitches Sin. Always a band I kind of liked and felt like they never quite got the right break.
Oh, I'm so glad that you picked them. I agree 100%. They suffered so much from. I mean, the 12 Pounds and No Kink demo is one of those really iconic New Wave Ritual Metal demos. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the first album is a disappointment, and I mean, even the single wasn't that special. I do want to point out though that the Invaders albums or album, I love it. I love this one, or these ones actually, because the two versions were actually they had a couple of different songs on them, and
Yeah,
you
that's right.
need to buy both of them because the songs that were unique to each, I think there are like 3 songs that differ.
Yep.
And even the songs that were unique were not like leftover crap. They were great. And I really fucking love this album. I think this is really underrated. I mean, it came in the wrong side of the 80s.
Yep.
But it's a great underrated album. And after the 12 Pounds and No Kink demo, this album is the shit. So highly recommended both versions. Get them.
Yeah, very good point. Because you're right. Both of those they have enough unique tracks on each that you want both versions.
There's enough of brilliant songs on those to warrant a buy of both ones.
Good deal. You have more than made up for that unfortunate Witchfinder General fiasco 10 minutes ago.
Someday we'll have that debate.
All right,
Marty.
Well, classic band, classic album cover, classic start to a long, almost perfect career. Bolt Thrower and Battle There Is No Law. I love their crust punks coming through on this artwork, and I love it. I mean, you got this very cool horror-esque cover, and then you got this zombie knight back here with "Thrash to Death" written on his shirt. It's so cool, and even the back, again, very crust punk. God, what a start! What a start to an awesome career. I mean, they put out some albums better than others, but there's nothing on Bolt Thrower's discography that I dislike. It's all good. I don't know who did the art on this. I don't know, but yep, I just had to show that one. That's a piece of art that's been bootlegged time and time again on many shirts, and awesome, classic.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
yeah, right. It was one of the first ones.
Oh, so good.
It was one of the first ones I thought of too. I'm just like, Marty will have that base covered.
That was one of the first ones I grabbed.
Yeah. For a long time, that was probably the Bolt Thrower album I played the most. I don't know if I would still, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but a lot of times it was always my go-to. It was like, I want to hear some Bolt Thrower, and 3 times out of 5, that'd be the one I'd pull off the shelf.
It's amazing. We just did the album club on Realm of Chaos, and it's been a while since I spun that record. I really love, what happened after that a lot. And it's a lot less chaotic than I remember it. I remember when I first got it, it's like, even this first one, in Battle There Is No Law, like early Carcass, it just seemed like a cacophony. But, as we've all become acclimated to the sound and the style and the riffs, it really held up well. I was quite surprised how it sounded like a different album to me. So, for sure.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Bolt Thrower as well. I've sort of lost them by accident, I guess. I mean, up until War Master, I saw them on the War Master tour in Sweden back in the days.
Nice.
It was so cool. It was like an organized bus from our hometown to
nice.
Wherever it was. I don't remember if it was Uppsala or Enköping or somewhere. And it was so cool to see them live. And I had sort of a weird association with that Bolt Thrower gig, because we were all everyone in town were going to this gig, and I think it was the first At the Gates live show outside of Gothenburg. I don't think they even released the first EP yet, or it was just released or something like that, and a couple of other bands. And on the bus, someone called someone and said that, "Oh, Pelle Dead just killed himself." So the news of that iconic thing came when all of us were on the bus.
On the way to Bolt Thrower.
Yeah. And I think I think At the Gates did some salute song to them, and then Bolt Thrower came on, and it was amazing as well. But yeah, it's so amazing band, which I sort of lost, but I'm going to catch up with them because of one of Alan's streams, which had sort of like a Bolt Thrower special, I think. Yeah.
For Victory. Perfect riff album.
Fourth Crusade's getting a lot of love in the chat, which, yeah, I think Fourth Crusade gets overlooked. I'm bad to overlook Fourth Crusade. I'll even admit it. And I love the album, but I sometimes just blank on it for some reason.
I did check out their Farewell album. Recently.
Honor, Valor, Pride.
Yeah,
it was amazing. It's one of
their last album. Oh wait, yeah, that's their final. Yeah. No, Those Once Loyal is the last album.
Oh yes. Sorry, you're right.
I forgot the title, but it's very much officially their Farewell album, and it was some of the best stuff I've heard from them. So definitely gonna go out and buy that one.
Great band, definitely. Not gonna go wrong with anything, really.
Yeah. More while we're on Bolt Thrower, Marty, some folks have asked if we're going to do a Bolt Thrower sort of show review ranking at some point. My understanding is, though, you did that on another channel not too long ago. Is that correct, or did that not come to fruition? I know somebody had contacted you about doing a Bolt Thrower show. But
didn't you do a Bolt Thrower special, Alan?
I have not done one myself. We've talked about Bolt Thrower several times.
I mixed up.
I don't think I've done a Bolt Thrower ranking or anything like that. Not that I'm aware of. We've done so many of these, I forget. To be completely honest, I totally forget. So
okay, I know someone had invited you to say, but yeah, it may have been. It could have been a year ago. So
it might have happened because I don't know.
And I'm sorry, I wish I could remember who it was. I should know who invited you, and I cannot think of it.
Shit,
bummer.
Yeah, I can't
anyway, I was going to check with you about that.
I mean, if I was there, I obviously don't remember it. Maybe I sent in my stunt double for that one. I don't know, but
fair enough. So,
all right.
Well, a Bolt Thrower show may be in the works for 2024 then.
I'm down with it. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I know a couple other dudes that might want to be involved in that too.
Chris. It was here. I'm sorry, Chris. Yeah. Here we go.
Oh yeah, I didn't make it. I couldn't make it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, Chris. I knew. I kept thinking Logan. I'm like, I know it wasn't Logan, but you couldn't cycle to Chris. So thanks for getting me straightened out on that, Chris.
All right.
Well, let's see. Dan
is up.
Dan is back up. We're back to the top of the batting order.
Yes. I'm going to go a bit more not mainstream, but a bit more. We were talking about, major or classic metal labels seldom using black and white sleeves back in the 80s or bands. I'm going to go with another big fave, which is the debut of Anacrusis.
I love them.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Marty.
Reason is my favorite, but they really, it's all been good.
Yeah, it's a huge favorite band for me, and I mean, I gotta say, yeah, their debut album will forever be my favorite. And I mean, for those unfamiliar with Anacrusis and or Anacrusis the band, they're sort of niched into the progressive thrash genre, which I think might be a reason that a lot of people who would fucking love this album as well.
They struggled though. They struggled hard. They feels like they slip. It's like bands like Sadus and bands that do something maybe a little different sometimes. Yeah. They fall through the cracks.
Yeah, and this isn't typical boring prog metal where you try to do like a billion time changes per minute or trying to be difficult. And especially on this first album, I think some of the original reviews when it came out sort of described them as a mix of Metal Church, Slayer, and Rush, which is sort of fitting. One aspect of the Suffering Hour is that I think is sort of underappreciated is that the production is so fucking brutal. This could have been like a death metal album. It is so heavy. I mean, the guitars are sort of like down-tuned. It is there's very few sort of, the second generation of thrash bands which sort of exploded back then, like Violence, Forbidden, Death Angel, all those bands. They were never as brutal as some of the most brutal moments of this amazing album.
Ken Nardi's vocals, he sounds like someone skinning a cat, man. It's just it's so
insane.
good. It's so good. And he hasn't lost it. I don't know if you followed any of his solo stuff, but it's all great. I love it.
I saw some of his stuff on Keep It True. I saw both the official Anacrusis reunion show, which was amazing, and 2 years later he was back with his new band. They sounded a bit too modern for my taste, but
got kind of proggy, but it's still, his voice still holds up, and it's still it sounds like Anacrusis to me.
And I think I mean, this is a very diverse album. I mean, all the songs are unique. I mean, they have the extreme brutality of music that is basically death metal, to like totally melodic epic power metal style. I mean, like in the metal church style of early US power thrash, and vocal harmonies which are amazing and unique to this genre. And I love all 4 albums. This will be my favorite. I think I think the third one would be my second favorite. Forgot the title.
I gotta say, Screams and Whispers is their most proggy, but it's got this lead off track, Sound the Alarm, which is maybe their best. It may be their best song. And that song is amazing.
Sound the Alarm.
I listen to that song and I'm like, okay, I go back 4 or 5 times and listen to the song over and over. I just get the chills every time. It's so good. So good.
But I think that the sort of suffering, because the prog metal stamp might scare away people who would actually love this band, or at least the first album, which is an amazing, brutal, intricate, catchy thrash metal album, or heavy metal album in all genres considered. So a huge fave of mine.
Great pick. Wow.
Yep.
I haven't spun that one in a while. When I grab that band, it's usually Reason. I like the second one a lot. That might be my favorite one.
The first CD I ever bought was Reason, actually.
I had it on tape. I bought it on tape back in the day, but yeah. Anyway, great pick. Awesome band. So good.
Yeah. A really good one. And yes, definitely, as someone said in the chat, it's their most thrashy album, and it's absolutely great. I like their later stuff too. Screams would probably be my favorite, but that one's great. All right, let's see. Let's do an odd vinyl one this time. Local band for me, in a way, from South Carolina, Carnage. Only album they got to do from '86. A really fun listen. It's got a very rough kind of lo-fi kind of vibe to it. Reminds me maybe a little bit of like the Enemy record, for folks that are familiar with that one. It starts off with this absolute just great track called Barbarian Queen, and it's one of these times it has like the spoken intro to it with there's tons of echo on the guy's voice, like across the sounds of the Middle Ages comes the Barbarian Queen, just and it just really takes off. Got a very strong kind of punky beat to it, which is kind of cool. They just got a little bit of I would not call it crossover. It's not like DRI or something, but it definitely has punk undertones driving these songs forward a lot. So yeah, just a very, very fun listen. Very rapid fire, really barking out the vocals. Exactly the kind of like the logo. Just really just kind of slams forward, very sloppy, kind of messy, but gotta like it. It is a very short album. It's 7 tracks, but the whole thing clocks in at about 25 minutes. So it's almost EP length, but it has a full track list. It's just one of those kind of crazy off the wall releases. The band a little too unhinged to ever get much traction in terms of any measure of success. They released a single a couple of years later. The single has a weird story with it. It came out on a different label. First off, it's got 2 incredibly short songs on it, which just doesn't make any sense. Make sure you get the tracks
two
right.
songs from the EP, or the same titles anyway.
Yeah, same titles, and yeah. So on like one slide, you've got This Is the End for 2 minutes and 36 seconds, and then Massacre at 2 minutes and 46 seconds. So yeah, it's just these two very short, quick songs on I believe the label's called Amethyst Records, which has kind of a dodgy history. They did a few other US metal singles on that label. I have heard people tell me in no uncertain terms that the label was basically sort of a scam label. The folks behind it were essentially putting things off as a way to move money around without people noticing. So there you go. But yeah, so kind of strange that they had a single 2 years later that just kind of recycled two songs and it didn't even have a track, that was 3 minutes on either side of the single. It really did feel like they just kind of slapped something together and threw it out there. I kind of wonder if the band was even aware that it got put out. I don't know. Anyway, the album is a pain in the ass to find, and it's one of those that tends to show up in really crappy condition a lot of the times. I got really lucky and got a very nice copy of it years ago, but it has been reissued, so you can get it very easily. Heaven and Hell Records did a reissue in 2017, I believe it was. Actually, right here on my file cabinet next to the desk, the Heaven and Hell's reissue came with a refrigerator magnet with the logo on it, which I like. Now, you have bands, do all kinds of, weird freebies. Anybody who watches the Wednesday Album Club is, familiar with TJ's, carcass plate, fork, and knife set up there on the wall. There's all kinds of gimmicky stuff you can put in. Magnets seem brilliant to me. They're thin. They fit in a CD case very easy. They're not going to mess anything up. They're actually useful.
Unless you put it in a tape deck.
Yeah. Probably not something to put in with a cassette tape.
No.
But I was thinking, because the other day I got an album in, and it came with the freebie with that one was a tote bag. I'm just looking, I'm just like, the fuck am I supposed to do with this kind of flimsy, thin ass tote bag with this band's logo on it? I'm not taking this to the beach. I'm not going to take it to the store to put my produce in.
It matches the banana hammock that came with it.
It's just like, but at the same time, it's too big to fold up and like put into the back of the sleeve with the record. Oh, I can't sandwich it onto the shelf in between records very well. That's going to look odd. The hell am I supposed to do with a tote bag? Magnet, file cabinet, boom, refrigerator. Everyone's got one. It's right there. You see it every time you open it up to get your Hot Pockets out, and it puts a little smile on your face because it's a damn fun album. South Carolina's Carnage, and you can get the CD, and it's not even going to cost you as much. Don't look for the album. The album costs too much and is too hard to find and is usually too beat up, but very fun listen. Just get those CD reissued. Not hard to find that.
Let me ask you a question here, Alan. I noticed the shrink's still on. Is it sealed still, that copy?
That copy is still sealed.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't know if because I've had some records over the years that are no longer sealed, but still have the original shrink around it.
Yep.
I start to looking at it and like, oh, the shrink in there seems to be some sort of a chemical process that happens, and the shrink ends up becoming one with you try to pull it off and it rips off the. I tell people to take that shrink wrap off once you crack it open. I mean, if you're going to leave it sealed, seal it. That's fine. But
yeah, I know what you mean. It varies a lot. It depends on the shrink and how it's wrapped. I bought a sealed record a month or two ago, and one of the first things I did, I took the shrink. I opened it and took the shrink off because you could already see in that case they had wrapped it too tight and it was starting to bend one of the corners of the cover in. So like that's got to go. This one is still absolutely perfectly straight, so there's no pressure being put on it.
And it has one of those really thick covers as well. So,
and I've got the CD. I can play. I can hear the music very easily when I want to. So it's one of those things. I can open it up any day I want to. I can never reseal it ethically anyway. So I'm okay with that one. remaining closed for the time being. But maybe someday I'll get a burr up my butt and we will unseal it and unleash the carnage. We'll see.
If I ever make it down to your place when you're in bed, I'm gonna get up and sneak and start opening shit up. The old Gene trick, opening them up. Like, hey, look what I did, Alan. I saved your records. Now play them like a normal human being.
Well, Dan and I will be covering the rest of this evening's festivities.
Okay. Oh, good. No, but I
Marty can sit in timeout and think about opening other people's records. That is a huge party foul, Mister. You huge party foul.
It's a huge fail to keep sealed records in your collection.
I'm just trying to help you move on and grow as a human being. You buy records to play them.
Yeah.
I play the CD copy. I also have because I'm a sick little monkey.
Right on.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I have very few sealed ones. I can think of maybe 3 or 4.
Oh, that one with the stupid tank on it that you showed a while ago. That thing, yeah.
Some people don't learn their lesson.
The blue one.
Marty is referring to the Loosely Tight album.
Oh yeah, the blue one,
which is a gem of a record, and as such, the stupid tank one. No, sir, we do not refer to Loosely Tight as the stupid tank one. We refer to it as Loosely Tight because that name is hilarious enough. Yeah. We don't have to call it the stupid tank one. Loosely Tight, that's true. That's true.
Loosely Tight is like metal bands that have silence in their band name. I mean, any band name that's got any sort of combination of silence. That shit drives me nuts. Anyway,
but Dead Silence is awesome.
Yeah,
but
there's a Dead Silence from Colorado, and they were really good.
I also want to.
And they have a black and white cover. Marty, you show your next one. I'll go queue up my next one since you
say this
up.
I also want to scream out that I really fucking love the Carnage one as well.
I figured that one is in your
huge fave. And I mean, all those songs are so cool, and they're from your home state.
Yeah, I lived in Columbus for several years. It's funny, Columbus. It's the capital city for the state. Yeah. For a city their size, they always had kind of a poor showing for record stores. Yeah. But there is like one long-running vinyl place close to South Carolina's main campus. And every now and then they would get a copy of that Carnage LP in just because it was local. And as they buy stuff every now and then, it would show up in the store. It wasn't, they didn't cater to heavy stuff or underground stuff at all, but they knew that one because of the local connection.
The one local special album. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Well, people talked about this early on in the chat, and I picked it begrudgingly because it's kind of a lame, easy pull, but
gotta do it.
I mean, this is kind of like the king of the monochrome black metal covers, really. I mean, you got Fenris here, so Xeroxed out, he almost looks like a deranged Muppet. I don't know. And man, I got these. This is an early repress. What is it? Yeah, well, 2002 repress. And of course, Peaceful Senate. And look at that seam split. Isn't that great? I don't know if you can see it, Dan, but it's like 2 inches long, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. You can't do much about it. They don't pull the records out, and it's cheap cover. I mean, they cheaped out on these. But I mean, this is the third of the unholy trinity of Dark Throne. When this came out, I hated it. Too simplistic, too riff maximum, but it grew on me. It grew on me big time. And of the first, I guess Blaze in the Northern Sky is probably my favorite, but this is a close second. There's just a brutal honesty to this record. It's just so straightforward. No compromise, straightforward. No real drum fills. It's just straight ahead. Trying to live and die on the strength of, I mean, Transylvanian Hunger is probably the catchiest, which is kind of smart. They put it first, the first song on the album. I don't know. This album grew on me, and Black and White, it's the king. Yen boss for sure. Dan, you're back.
I'm back. Okay. Let's see what I have prepared. Yep. We definitely need to talk about this one. 80s doom metal when you think about 80s doom metal, there really weren't that many bands. We can all, list the classic ones, but as far as, one-off releases with obscure bands, there aren't that many. One of the cooler ones was a band from Belgium, and I guess when I say that, some people will know that I will be talking about Ritual.
Nice. Very cool.
This sleeve, man, it does absolutely everything wrong and right at the same time. I mean, yeah, this is one of those, put on your wall, perfectly weird and evil and twisted album sleeves.
What is it? Is it like a Cobra Lady? I'm trying to figure
out. Wait. She's a candle.
Wow.
The lady is a candle.
I see it now. Yeah. Okay.
And the cross is sort of like a very weird twisted upside down cross with a triangle indentation in the middle going into infinity. I don't know. This is one of my one of the coolest upside down crosses I've ever seen. To this day, I don't. It has got to have some sort of esoteric weird meaning to it. And I don't know if you can see it in the stream, but actually this gray area is sort of like radio. It's not like gray. It's sort of like radio static. So there's no pure black or whites. It's sort of like in static, which makes the color scheme really weird. And I mean the whole design of this sleeve is amazing. One of my all-time faves as far as weird black and white sleeves go. And I mean the logo as well is very atypical as far as 80s metal go. This could be like a Russian folk black metal band or something like that. But musically, I would categorize this as doom metal, because I mean there's the guy lying on a grave on the back, and it's hard to describe them, to compare them with other doom metal bands. They have sort of like a Witchfinder General, Saint Vitus vibe to them, but they're a bit more traditional metal. Bit of a new NWOBHM metal feel. Last Night for the Demons is probably my favorite tracks. Actually, the two B-side tracks, that one and Prediction, is really cool. I mean, all four tracks are great, of course, but it's a unique. What should we compare them to? I don't know.
They're a hard one to compare.
It's sort of like Ozzy Osbourne type vocals, really great vocals for being a Belgian band, I guess.
You could tell they're a doom band because all four of those dudes look like they would buy their underage nephew cigarettes and beer just to have someone to party with.
Hairlines. I mean, those hairlines is this is doom metal.
Oh yeah,
another one of those. I mean, great lineup shots. And I mean the song titles like Pater Noster and Spaced Out, and Last Night for the Demons. It is a really cool meaning, and it's been fairly recently reissued with a ton of bonus tracks. So easy to find for anyone who want to check them out. So one of those really cool forgotten 80s doom albums. Maybe not as slow and doomy as Saint Vitus or Candlemass or whatever, but a cool one if you like, doom and new NWOBHM metal and stuff like that, with a unique sound. Yep, a definite must for a stream like this.
Yeah, excellent call, Dan. Yeah, I got the reissue you mentioned, which with a lot of extra stuff on it. It's a phone worth pointing out to folks. Yeah, as Dan said, it's just a hard one to describe. Unlike a lot of doom, the songs are very short. There's 4 songs on that EP, and it's like a total of 14 minutes, 13 minutes. Is there a single song that even gets to 3 minutes on it?
I know it's really short, man.
Yeah. So, usually, you think, with,
3-minute doom songs, that's not right.
Oh, exactly. Well, exactly. Yeah. You usually think of, the doom songs, really
oxymoron,
slowly and kind of dragging out. Let me check here.
It's no playing time.
But 208, 4:39, 2:52, and 2:23 for a total of 12 minutes and 2 seconds for the EP for a doomy kind of band. So yeah, it's a goofy one, but a very cool one. Yeah, and a pain to find the original one. That's a very nice piece. Yeah, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be happy just to I'll get the reissue and say thank you kindly and
never open
through Dan's collection.
CD.
All right, Alan.
All right, since Marty kind of set one up there, I wasn't planning on breaking this one out tonight, but we do need to show some 7-inch love. And New Wave of British heavy metal wasn't the only scene operating on a pretty tight budget and sticking to monochrome sleeves sometimes. Lots of US metal singles did that too, including this band, Dead Silence. This is their only release, single. I believe this one came out in 80. Well, let's see. This actually says 84. I was thinking it was a little later than that. But one thing that always struck me as a little odd about this, it's band is Dead Silence. You have the long silence is over, but that is not the title of either song. They actually gave their single a unique title, which isn't something you see done very often. EPs get a title, albums get a title. Singles are just referred to by the A side, or even the A side back with B side. This one actually has, a unique title, even though it is very much, it's just a 2-song single. There's no like third track or anything like that to it. Back is also black and white. Here's our cast of characters for this one. Very good, kind of very straightforward sound, leaning a little into the more commercial side of things, but still pretty solid. The winner is definitely the A side. Can't Stop is a really good, strong driving song. Vocalist has, really good control over his voice, works wonders. The B side's also good, but not as strong as the A side for this one. Only thing they got to do, but it's not the only thing they recorded. In talking with folks over the years, it turns out the band did record more tracks. I don't know if they had a full album's worth of material, but it sounded like they were probably close. But they never got a chance to release it, which is a real shame. So somebody out there from No Remorse Records or High Roller, if you're watching this, hi, long-time listener, first-time caller, nice to talk to you. Track them down. They do have unreleased material, and they were quite good. Arcane Steel, if y'all are still putting stuff out, this is right up your alley. It's a little earlier than a lot of your releases, but yeah, Dead Silence. I would love to hear what that unreleased material sounds like. I've never heard any of the tracks. I do trust the people I talked to about it, though. This wasn't just like, my boyfriend's girlfriend's sister's brother's drug dealer thought they made some songs. Nah, this was pretty legit, that they did have more material. We have anthologies for everyone under the sun these days. Let's go find Dead Silence and get their stuff put out. Stormspell, hey, Stormspell, you out there? This is not that far. Hey, you're closer than those other labels. This will be easier for you. You're out there in their neck of the woods. So it would be cool to see them get a release. Yeah, nothing else spectacular. The single is semi-rare. This is not a huge high dollar one. It turns up from time to time. But yeah, it's a good listen. I like it, and I'd like to hear more. So somebody make that happen. Chop chop. I'm very demanding tonight.
This Dead Silence goes to 11.
It is the most silence.
Except when you put the needle on it.
Crank up the silence.
Yeah.
There you go.
Never heard it, actually.
Yep. Good little single, but enough about that. Marty, what you got next?
Well, let's go to this one. The third and final full-length album by Germany's Nagelfar with an E, Virus West. The drummer from this band, Alex von Meilenwald, went on to form the Runes of Beverast. And oddly enough, there's a sonic quality to this Nagelfar that sounds like Runes of Beverast to me. I was surprised that Alexander just play drums on this stuff, because it sounds, man, this Perverted Taste pressing, it is so cheap. And so I got this in the mail so mutilated. It was packaged so crappy, but absolutely killer. This was a great band, great German band. And if you like the Ruins of Beveras, there is definitely a kinsmanship with this stuff. This third one is probably the one I listened to the least. The second one's my favorite. The first album is probably a little more normal second wave black metal, but a lot of fast stuff on here, kind of twisted, atypical, dark, polluted black metal style. Very good. And of course, this Gustav Dora cover or woodcut is very much, I think this is a Dora. This has been on a million covers over the years, but great record, great band. Check it out. Cool cover.
I completely forgot they had a third album. Shame on me.
Yep.
I see. Yeah, it's always, the first two are the ones that usually get referenced, and
the second one's my favorite. That one, there's some great stuff on that record. That's their best. All right, Dan, you're up.
Okay. I'm going to follow up with Alan picked, was it our first 7-inch for the night?
I believe that was. Yep.
Yeah. I'll pick the second one then.
Alrighty.
Be back.
Because, I mean, 7 inches, it's much more common to see, I mean, black and white picture sleeve on all old 80s metal 7 inches. It's nothing special per se, but we all have our favorites. And I mean, lots of classic NWOBHM metal ones, and of course, a lot of classic Swedish ones. This one is not one of the, the most talked about ones or the most classic ones, but this has one of my favorite sleeves, and it's one of the more unique ones from Sweden. And it is a 7-inch with a little band called Ambush. And when you look on a sleeve like this, the first time I saw this, I thought it looked amazing. And then I looked closer and it was like, wait, where's the dragon? Where's the warrior? There's no dragon or warrior on this one. I know it's totally missing something. But when you're actually listening to the music, it makes sort of sense, because it has a very serene feel, this one. You have like the winding road up to the castle, and so like, down the sides you have the the menacing claw and the ill omen of the raven flying around. And when you turn it over and you see the hand-drawn lineup, everyone loves hand-drawn lineup shot pick, right? I mean, they're so typical of a certain sound, I think. So hand-drawn lineup pick. And the guy in the middle, the vocalist, I don't know if that's a hat or if it's just a stylized black moon or something, but
I was just trying to figure that out myself.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's a hat.
I want to go with hat too, but yeah, the perspective's a little weird.
They sort of, sound the way they look, but slightly heavier, actually. I would compare the Swedish Ambush to maybe, Ashbury.
Oh, okay.
The Ashbury album, but a bit more metal. This is sort of like folksy homemade hard rock meets. It's a 4-track EP, because name 4-track EP. The first song, like "Run Like Hell," is stupid catchy. You should go out on YouTube and just Google or just YouTube "Ambush Run Like Hell." It's such a crazy catchy tune. And then you have a track like "Holy Ruler," which could be taken straight off, Mercy's Witchburner. It's like a total, like mid-ages obscure doom metal song. "Whole Man Again" is a great sort of like folksy metal tune. And you have "Spirit of a Fool," which is kind of a ballad, but at the same time it has that sort of what's the name of that 70s folky band with the guy standing on a his leg playing the flute.
Oh, Jethro Tull.
Yeah, they have that vibe. But no, it's actually a really underrated Swedish metal single. And they did release a couple of full-length cassette albums, I think. I have them on some CDRs. They're not as unique as this EP. And I think they even re-recorded some of their old stuff and released on vinyl recently. And there's like reissues of this EP as well. So it's fairly easy to get. And as far as first wave Swedish heavy metal single goes, it's not the most rare one. Might have gotten a bit more pricey in recent years, but I'd say this is an absolute must if you like mood-filled, mystic, metallic hard rock with sort of a bit of a folksy vibe. For those who sort of found Ashbury a bit too soft, check out Ambush from Sweden instead. Highly recommended.
I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've ever heard that one. I've heard it. I've heard of it, but I don't think I ever checked it out. But it sounds, sounds like it'd be up my alley.
And, there's fairly recent reissues available out there. So
okay. I also have to say I love the fact that the band is called Ambush and their first song is called "Run Like Hell." Yeah, because you're just like ambush, run like hell. Well, of course you should run like hell if it's ambush. That's what everybody does when they get ambushed, right? Yeah. It struck me funny.
All right, Alan, you are up.
All right, Aaron, you asked for it. Dead serious. No, I'm kidding. We won't do that.
I was going to pick out the LP, but no.
It was right behind Dead Silence in the box, so it was easy to grab. Let's do a modern outlier. Then we'll get back to some other crazy different stuff. I was flipping around looking for some things that weren't really cult underground singles or black metal or stuff. And I saw this on the show, so I was like, well, hell, that fits good. And I love that album. The first Danzig album. That's pretty black and white. Everybody knows this album. There's not a whole lot I can add to the commentary on it. I remember when I first got it, this was a slow grower for me. I didn't hate it when I first heard it, but, let's face it. It has, a very bluesy undertone to it. And let's see if they've got the band picture. Loved the picture, of the band here. It's just like, this just put like, the little scale bars back here. And it literally looks like, it's just, a lineup for like, who beat up an old lady and stole her purse downtown last night kind of image. But it had, Mother, of course, was the big hit single. But that one that didn't really gain in popularity until a lot later. It wasn't like this album came out and the single dropped and Danzig was huge. The single was down the road a piece. But it's just a Twist of Cain, has, that, very, iconic, riff to it. And it was just one of those albums, like, every time I played, it was like a new song would stand out. Like next time I'd play, it's like, okay, now I like that song and this one. And the rest of them I'm not sure about yet. The third time through, be like, okay, now there's 3 songs that are clicking with me. So it kind of was incremental for me because it is Danzig's style is always a little hard to categorize. It's heavy, it's not thrash, it's not power. It doesn't fit in a particular genre very well. So it's kind of its own beast, which fair enough, makes sense. But it's not my favorite from him. A very good one. Those first 3 albums, I still go back to all 3 of those first Danzig albums from time to time, and I still get a lot of enjoyment from them. Nothing particularly obtuse on this one, but hey, sometimes you just got to show the classics, and Danzig definitely fits there.
Yeah, I think Lucifuge was my favorite from him.
I loved Lucifuge. I've played that album so much. I think I
So-
would take How the Gods Kill over it by maybe a little bit,
Okay. Yeah.
but maybe only 5 days out of the week. The other two would
Yeah.
probably be Lucifuge. So it really
Yeah,
depends
I
on
mean,
the
Lucifuge
mood.
is one of those albums where is lots of diverse styles on it, but almost every song is great.
Yes.
And I think it sort of outshines most of the other stuff I've heard. Those were the only 2 albums I actually bought back then with him.
Mm.
But yeah, cool band.
Yeah.
And we all grew up with Misfits, so we had to
See,
check
I
them out.
didn't, and I never
Weirdo.
really cared for Danzig until when that album came out. I disliked it greatly, but over the years, now I'll pull it up on Spotify and listen to it. I'm like, what was I thinking? There's a lot of class and very kind of cool 70s swagger to this. It's very good. And then now I started listening to some Misfits stuff and saying, kind of like this too. I don't know what.
Damn
I
right.
was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. It was like the Jim Morrison style of whatever.
Yeah.
I worked
the heavy metal
age
Elvis
and maturity. I guess
Lord
I worked
bless
through
him
it.
for it.
What'd you say, Alan?
Oh yeah, he's the heavy metal Elvis, and more power to him. Bless him for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As some, I grew up, with a lot of that older. My dad was a huge Elvis freak. I was listening to Elvis records when I was 2 and 3 years old, so it's perfect for me because it was ingrained in my DNA very early that stuff was super cool. One of the first albums I ever had. My dad got I think it was the second Elvis album, but somebody had drawn all over the cover. So he didn't really want it. So he just gave it to me. I would sit there and play this old 50s Elvis record on my little literally a Fisher Price record player, just over and over and over. I looked at it years later, and the record was almost just like one giant scratch all the way. Not one scratch, just nothing but scratch. Because it was just like a cheap ceramic needle on a Fisher Price turntable, but. I bet I played that album 100 times before I even went to kindergarten.
All you had to do is, we had a 50-cent piece taped to the top of your stylus. You add a couple quarters to it and just make that a little heavier, and it blows through those scratches. No problem. That's what I do with all my Kiss records. They still play. They still play. They haven't. I don't know why or how, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, I'm up next. Well, here's kind of a promotion, I guess. This is the 4th Bindrune Recordings release. Tanner Anderson's Celestial. This was the first record on Bindrune where I kind of realized the direction. I needed to change a direction. I was kind of trying to find a style for the label, and this kind of crept into my awareness. It's Tanner. People know from Obsequii, Majesties. He's been on the channel before. This is basically a Funeral Doom album. I actually took the picture on the cover. It's a kind of a screwed up photo, but it kind of fit perfectly for the album. And then later on, Handmade Birds put it out on vinyl, limited run of vinyl of this as well. But it's basically really heavy Funeral Doom, leaning into ambience. Some vocals are kind of veiled on here, and drum machine. It's just really heavy, and it kind of set the label on a trajectory. Not that we were going to put out just Funeral Doom, but more atmospheric, more woodland based type stuff. So this was kind of the gateway into what we would become later on. But yeah, pretty cool monochrome artwork. Screwed up forest picture that's a little blurry, but it's kind of cool because of that. But thought I'd show that. Check out Celestial. This is probably still available on eBay. You can probably still find it. This is long sold out here, but they do turn up for cheap online. So check it out if you're into that type of stuff.
How does that one compare to their second album, Mari? Because I've only been able to track down the second one.
The second one is a lot more ethereal, I guess. He did a lot of this on a 4-track, I think, and it just has a rawness to it. I think this is a heavier, more, I don't want to say focused. It's just a more underground record. Whereas the second one seems a little more formed out, and there's some harp stuff on it. And it's got Jason Walton from Agalock on there playing bass. But I don't know. Of the two, I like them both, but I prefer this one. There's just an underground quality to it.
It's one of those things I always kind of keep in the back of my mind, It's going to show up locally. It's exactly the kind of thing that should show up in one of my locals.
I think we did 1,000 of them, so they're out there.
Yeah,
maybe I don't
I'll
remember the
stumble across
1,000
it
or
one
less.
day.
I don't remember. My brain is turning into gelatin at this point. But yeah, Celestial, Desolate North. Check it out if you're into Funeral Doom and ambient woodsy type stuff. Pretty cool. It's Tanner's kind of humble beginnings.
Very cool.
And Dan, you're back.
I didn't even know you had a label, Marty.
Yep.
Okay.
Marty's the man behind
Bindrune Recordings. Yep.
Oh, cool.
You are up, sir.
I am up. Yes. Yeah, we were talking about in the beginning of the stream that we associate black and white sleeves with the new wave of British heavy metal. And there's a lot of really cool 12 inches as well from the UK. And actually, there's a lot of really cool black and white new wave of British heavy metal 12 inches, not from the UK as well. And one of my favorites in this non-genre would be Lady from Holland.
Ah.
And
that's that Frankie
Woodhouse. Yeah.
Yes, Frankie Woodhouse.
Yes. Yeah, the drummer later had a band called Frankie Woodhouse. But this EP, I think it was released in 81 or 82. And it, with a sleeve like this, it couldn't look more new wave or British heavy metal. I mean, you have the sort of old Englishy logo, once again, hand-drawn lineup shot, and their angels. It has everything in common with, the low-budget, homemade, early new wave of heavy metal aesthetics. And musically, I think this EP is amazing. I love it to death. There's 3 songs on it. We have the epic. Which one is the first one? Because it's different on the LP. And they start off with an Angel of Beware, which is really, really like long soaring song, and like the really fast Lost Child. And what makes them so special is the production, because this sounds like a crazy 1979 new wave British heavy metal band recorded in the mid-late 60s. Because the production of this has this really sort of reverberated 60s psych garage sound to it, which it's a really unique mixing style, which makes the music sound so wild. And I mean, the tracks are great. Really, all 3 tracks have their own distinct feature. And I mean, it's really like, especially the song Lost Child, which is the fastest song, is a total barnstormer. And I mean, if you look at one of those, the real lineup shot, I mean, total fucking hoodlums, right? I mean, half the band were probably like skinheads in the early 70s or something like that, the old kind of skinhead. Yeah. It's one of those really underrated ones. And I've seen that it's actually one of my favorite albums, which actually has become more expensive and difficult to find, which means that people are probably appreciating it. But I mean, if you can't find this one, all 3 songs are available on the double maxi mini album with Frankie Woodhouse, because the Frankie Woodhouse project was sort of like, I think most of the guys from this band, they re-recorded these tracks and put on a couple of other ones. And that album from like 84, 85 or something is fairly easy to find, and a must buy as well, if this should happen to be too pricey. I don't know if it's been re-released yet, but as far as European new wave of British heavy metal goes, it's an absolute must. Really wild, roaring, early metal or proto-metal. Can't really recommend it enough if you like wild stuff. Lady and that name. I mean, it's so. When you have a band name like Lady, it's so unmetal that it's very typical of the early new metal, new wave of international metal scene, where there weren't really any rules, or the cliches weren't really set. So all these bands had these really weird band names, so they're these really generic ones. And I mean, Lady is just it has to be good. Yeah, dumb but great. Yes. Have you guys heard it?
I have. It's been a long time since I heard it, but yeah, I don't own it. I own the Frankie Woodhouse, the double album, but not that one. Yeah, and I just checked. It has not ever gotten a reissue. A little surprising. I mean, the tracks, maybe on something else that's been reissued, but by itself, nope. There's no extra Lady material out there. Just the one.
Yeah. Lady, I'm so happy I found you. So that's all I've heard by Lady is that.
I'd be happy if I found that out in the wild. Yes.
All right, Alan.
All right. We'll dig up an obscure one here next. Always loved this album. It's collectible one. It's a little it's a hard one to describe. It is I haven't talked about it in a long time. It's by a band called White Boy and the Average Rat Band.
Yes, you have.
It's been a while.
It's been a month.
It's been longer than that. I've not pulled this one out in a bit. This one gets categorized different ways. It's got some metal to it, but it's also got, I think a lot of people tend to put it in that kind of like outsider music kind of thing, because it basically was a one-man project. Most of the guys posing here were just kind of hanging out to help him give the illusion that it was a band. But it was mostly done by one guy. Weird little things about this. The guy lived in kind of right there in the Blue Ridge Mountains, like along the West Virginia state line, which is really close to the area I grew up in. So already it's like, yay, cheering for the home team. It was one of those cases where, there was one little recording studio in the one little coal mining town he worked at. And so, he worked in the store during the day and had permission to use the, recording space, here and there when he can. So it took a long time for him to cobble this together, because it was just, pieces here and pieces there. But yeah, it's got a very cool sound to it. The guitar has a really good sizzle to it. That's, where more the metal comes in. But yeah, the songs, as a lot of these types of albums do, there's some different styles incorporated. It's not like every song sounds the same. You can tell they're just trying out a lot of different things that they thought were cool, but a lot of them actually kind of work. Neon Warriors is, kind of straightforward, a little more of the energetic one. Sector 387 is just this kind of groovy one. The lyrics are just spoken, and it's like he's reading something from like a sci-fi gumshoe detective story about having to go break up fights between robots on his scanner, and it's just like, yeah, screw this, I'm just going to sit here and have another cup of joe. Just weird stuff, but it actually somehow works. Oriental Doctors has a great hook to it. It's just this big almost booming 70s guitar rock thing. Back cover, there's I guess that's the average rat in cartoon form. I don't know. So yeah, very, very odd one, but it's become, one of those very big collectible ones. It had, of course, a tiny print run, kind of just disappeared into the woodwork. It was released in the real early 80s. I want to say it was like 80 or 82. But what eventually happened to it, oddly enough, there was an English fellow who retired in that area. He moved over here from Great Britain and just, I guess, fell in love with that area, retired there. And he was a record collector dealer. I've talked about him before. His name was John Allenson. He bought out the last of Neat Records vinyl stock when they were liquidating the last of their stuff out of the warehouse. He just went in and bought everything they had left and sold it through mail order for a long time. Because he lived in the same area, he kind of stumbled upon this, I guess got in touch with the guy, and started getting this album out there into the collector circles, which is where it started to get noticed. And this would have been maybe the tail end of the 80s, probably more like the earliest 90s, though. So probably a good 10 years after the album was actually recorded and released. Some of the first catalogs I got from Allenson, he had this advertised as like, last copies left, there are no more. So once it's gone, it's gone. And even then, I mean, he was, wanting like I want to say they were like, $200 even at that point. And I just remembered it because it's like, well, that's a goofy name. I didn't learn what it was or what it sounded like until much, much, much later. The way I ended up with this was also kind of weird. Once I heard it, I kind of fell in love with it. So it's kind of like Dan with the Legend records, like, must have it. Oh God, that's going to hurt. I don't know how I pay for that, but I must have it. A copy showed up on eBay. I don't know. It's been 10, 15, more than 10 years, a lot more than 10, probably 15 or more. Had shown up on eBay and it had been bootlegged on vinyl. I've actually got a copy of the bootleg sitting over there too. So I had to email the guy right away through eBay to make sure it wasn't a bootleg copy. And he sent me more details. It was really nice. It was clear right away. It's like, nope, that is an original copy. So I'm like, oh God, how much cat food can I eat in the month to afford that record? That's not going to end well, is it? In talking with the guy, the long story, relatively short, I did not win the auction. But in talking with the guy, it turned out what had happened, he and his brother back in the day used to go around and would buy out a lot of random stock from small record stores, that were like closed or going out, stuff like that. And he had bought out some little store up in West Virginia. And that's where he'd got this. And when he was describing it to me, he made the comment, he's like, and there were a couple of copies of it in the box. I was like, wait a minute. That copies is plural. This, sir, implies you have another one. He's like, I do. It's just like, I'm not going to win this eBay auction. It's a little out of my price range, but can we talk about this second copy? And it was actually really nice about it. He didn't know anything about the band or much. He just knew it seemed like kind of an odd, quirky album. So he was really surprised it was getting this much attention. So I had kind of told him the backstory of it as we were emailing back and forth. And he was fascinated. He's like, that's so cool. That's exactly the kind of thing I love to know. So he liked that I was, had explained it to him. He's just like, yeah, we could, I could just sell you the second one, not deal with eBay because that saves me money. So we got to talking about it, and as we worked it out, once again, he says like, yeah, he's like, that one's gone. Yeah, I can set this one aside for you, and then I got to decide what to do with the third one. I'm like, you have a third copy of the thing, do you? What eventually happened, and it turned out he actually lived not far from me. He lived up in, I was actually over in Columbus, South Carolina at the time. And he lived up in the Asheville, North Carolina area. So what ended up happening on a very, very cold, I think it was in December morning, I dragged my poor wife to Asheville with the promise, like, I will feed you and wine you very, very well after this. She's like, I can't believe this is happening. So it's like at 8, we arranged it, early in the morning on a cold street corner in Asheville. I'm standing there with a lot of money, waiting for a total stranger to show up with 2 copies of White Boy and the Average Rat Band. I had made him an offer for both copies.
The only guy in the U.S. that gives a shit about that band enough to buy 5 copies of it.
Yep. And when I made the offer, I'm like, I understand. Like, my offer is low. I understand you just sold one for more than this, and I'm offering you this much for both. That it's what I can afford. I understand if you can't do it. He was actually just like, I'm actually fine with that. You've told me a lot about the record. That's great. Sure. If meet me in person and paying cash, let's do it. And sure enough, he showed up right on time. Really nice guy, little, older, probably like mid 50s, maybe getting towards 60, maybe if at most. Had them both, packed just like in a nice, record box. And just like, took them out, checked them both, like new, and counted out more money than I'd like to admit. It's like, here you go. He's like, this is so cool. Thanks so much. Just nicest guy at all. It took literally like 3 minutes. And then I had to spend the rest of the day, though, yes, taking my wife to every little wine store and, nice restaurant. Asheville's a fun city to hang out in and do those things. So made sure it was worth her time to get dragged along for a record buying expedition on a street corner.
That explained why you spent so much money on the average Rad band.
And so much. But the other copy, you joke, Marty, the other copy, it took me no time at all. I traded that for like over $500
That's
worth
awesome.
of stuff.
That's cool. I'm just giving you shit. I know.
Oh, no.
I know you know your shit. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it seems like, who in God's name would want this? From the look of it, the name, it sounds weird. But, as soon as I told somebody I picked up 2 copies, they're just like, I want one. What? They're just like, would you like this? It was kind of like, Dan's situation with Legends. Like, what can I trade you to get that? Because I want it. Just like, well, what have you got? And so, yeah, I traded it for some pretty nice and rare stuff. But so I've talked long enough about it. But again, nice reissues of this out there. There's a vinyl bootleg if you want it on vinyl, but not. You can even get the version that comes with yet another refrigerator magnet. Yes, that is a thing that happens too. So I can almost promise that's the last refrigerator magnet I'll show tonight. There's
I've got a scanner Hypertrace refrigerator magnet on my refrigerator.
Oh, nice. I've got a lot of Iron Maiden magnets on my file cabinet at work. Like one out of every 400 students, someone will come in and do the double take. Like, ooh, Iron Maiden. But yep, sorry to talk so long about that one, but just fun stories about a very fun record that not many people know. With that, I'm going to go get something else to drink while Marty takes the helm.
I totally forgot what that sounded like, actually. I probably have it on my computer, but I need to revisit it. Maybe it needs an addition onto the want list.
It's a fun one. It is not a fun one to try to track down on the original.
No.
If anybody could do it and do it well, it would be you, sir.
Well,
and we'll see what you got next, Marty, before I go.
I'm going to show off, what's the name of this thing? Woe to the Inhabitants of the Earth by Lordian Guard. William Samus, is that how you say his name? The main Samus, yep, composer. I'll show yours because it's way more interesting. You're not going to like what I'm going to say about this. You're not going to like what I say about this, but it's his wife or girlfriend or friend, I don't know, on vocals, and they wrote some original stuff and they redid some Warlord stuff. I've got a couple of the discs, and this is a 2 CD set actually. And you know what? It's got a very, I'm sorry, Dan. It's got a very much a bedroom quality to it. You could kind of tell they did it at home studio. It's got moments. I'm not a big fan of her voice, to be completely honest, but it's good to hear him. Obviously, he wanted to continue on making music after Warlord, and Warlord actually got back together after this, didn't it? Yeah, and put out some really good stuff. So he had it in him, but this here was just kind of a, I don't know. What do you think of this, Dan?
I freaking love Lordian Guard, and I love her vocals. They're totally
I struggle with them.
The only time it doesn't work, I think it's one of the first song. Is it War in Heaven, or is it the first one on the second one? It's one of the
War in Heaven on disc 2. It's a demo, demo 95, no drums. Intro.
I think it's one of the fast songs which Warlord later recorded, where it doesn't really work when she sings. Yeah. But apart from that, I love her weird fucking voice.
She's very pitchy.
Yeah,
that was part of it for me.
Yeah, I think they never re-recorded any, original Warlord songs. But when Warlord reformed, they remade a lot of.
See, I heard the Warlord stuff first, and then so I heard this stuff. I'm like, oh, they're Warlord songs, you know.
Yeah, but this was the origin of many of those songs.
Gotcha.
And I discovered them like maybe 5 years ago or something, and they blew me away. It was sort of after discovering the last album with Warlord. Holy Empire, which is my favorite Warlord album.
It's really good. That's a good record.
And it sounds, Holy Empire sounds like a Lordian Guard album more than it sounds like the earlier Warlord ones. And it is the best imaginable epic metal ever, and I love both Lord and Guard albums.
I mean, I like it. Her vocals are the kind of the part.
Yeah,
that made it.
it's an acquired taste,
Yeah.
but it takes some getting used to. But once you're into it, it's so unique. And the ultra old Orthodox Christian sort of lyrics and everything.
Yep.
It's so far away from any other form of white metal. This is so fucking hardcore that it just goes over to cool again. It shouldn't work, but it makes it almost even better because it's like so fucking hardcore Orthodox, but like Old Testament white metal. But no, it's I love them.
Yeah, check it out, Psychic. It's good stuff. I mean, William was an amazing guitarist, songwriter, no doubt about it. It just this stuff just has very much a bedroom. Of course, I say that, but a lot of it's demo. You can tell they're just in their house recording the shit on their computer as they come up with it. So I don't know, but it's your turn, Dan.
It's my turn. Yeah,
thanks for backing me up on that one. Like I said, you know more about it than I do. I love Warlord, but
I think we discussed them last stream as well.
Oh, did we really?
Well, we mentioned them. I think, for some reason. I'm going to go to the US now, and we're going to go to, we talked about the aesthetics of, black and white sleeves and how they sort of turned up even on like later albums and reissues and everything. So here is, I had to pick one sort of reissue album. We sort of stole the aesthetics of all these sort of private pressing ones, and I'm going to try to get them out of the fucking plastic. A really old release from our old friend Rob Preston and his Doom Planet label, Solitude Eternus, Justice for All demo on vinyl, which is the first metal demo tape I ever heard. I think when I had a few years of tape trading in the late 80s and maybe early 90s, and it was mostly because back then I finished like junior high, and I really didn't know that many metal people for a few years. So I basically resorted to tape trading just to get all the cool new thrash albums on tape.
Yeah.
And then I got all these lists, and they had all these cool sounding demos. And this guy from Greece, whose name I've sadly forgotten, he's one of the tapes was a couple of demos. And the most outstanding one was this amazing doom metal demo, the debut demo of Solitude Eternus, or as they were called back then, only Solitude. Solitude Eternus is like, as stalwarts of US doom. Most people into doom metal will recognize them. This first demo is a little bit different. It's a bit more shugging, sounds bit more troubly than their later slower epic stuff, and they had a different vocalist and a quite I forgot his name, but he had quite a unique vocal style. It's really hard to compare with what's his name, the second guy. And I think all songs on this demo were eventually re-recorded and re-released on the two first albums. But the best song they ever made, which is Sojourner, were never reissued. And if you want to have the original, you got to get this one. And the reissue I think it was released in like the late 90s. It's one of those, because I know that Doom Planet and was it like OPM, there were maybe two of the first labels who started reissuing like old, rare and obscure 80s metal. And this one is one of my favorites from that era, and they totally nailed it with just grabbing all the classic cliches of all those cool sleeves. I don't know specifically which lyrics from this demo that this motif is taken from. Maybe none of them, but it still works out great for me. So you have a warrior knight on a war horse and troglodytes swinging sticks and whatever. But I mean, it's as far as reissues go with old cult demos, this is one of the better ones. So heavy and a total doom metal classic. Even for those who, like me, never really got into the later album stuff, I have the first or maybe the second one. Sort of seldom come back to them, even if they're not bad, but
they're good.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, but they're maybe a bit too highbrow for me. I don't know, a bit too proggy or whatever. But this one, I mean, it's total trouble meets Candlemass in the best of ways. And as I said, the first metal demo tape I ever heard, and it's got a special place on my heart. And I'm so glad that it exists on a fairly old vinyl with a great sleeve. So highly recommended.
Nice.
Yeah. Excellent pick. Hadn't thought of that. Yeah. I almost picked one of Rob's other albums to show tonight that had a black and white cover, but I didn't get it. It was the Arson album, but I didn't get a chance to go back and replay it. And I haven't heard it in ages.
I forgot which one that was.
But yeah, very, very cool one for sure. Yeah, and it is funny because that, it's doom music, but then it's got the Justice for All title, which of course
that is so weird.
It's a weird title, and then that artwork also. You're like, how do these three things fit together? You got
because it was released. It was released the same year as the Metallica album.
There's a Metallica album called Injustice for All?
Yeah. In 88.
Yeah, that had to be bad for them.
So I don't know if it was, what is some sort of prank or something? I don't know. It's really weird. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, now see, Metallica should have, done the honorable thing like Accept did and made a last minute, album title and called it, Russian Roulette instead. Yeah. I mean, War Games. Yeah. I mean, Harvester of Sorrow. There we go. That would have worked.
And ironically, they went on. Metallica went on to more or less just like rip off Trouble on the album after that. So it's almost full circle. Yeah.
All right, Alan.
All right. Just been getting caught up with the chat. Heavy Metal Berserker. Good morning, UK. Thank you for joining us. Let's see. I talked a lot on the last one, so I'll pick something kind of short and to the point this time. Did want to make sure I got a little black metal representation in there. And I picked one of my all-time favorites, Immortals, Pure Holocaust. Y'all just talked about Immortal on the Wednesday Album Club, but not this album.
Nope.
This was their second. Still probably my favorite. Again, some days of the week I might pick something different, but this one has always just been fantastic for me. And this was one of the first black metal albums I ever heard, and one of the first ones that ever really, really clicked with me. I've mentioned in the past, Norwegian black metal was very slow to creep into the area I was living in. I was out in the Midwest in the early and mid 90s. And just, 93, nobody was listening to any of this stuff. 92, late 92, no signs of this kind of stuff. 93, not at all. 94, a couple of things, I guess, were starting to show up here and there. It really wasn't until 95 that it started to become a little bit more like, oh, there's this new thing going on, huh? Which, of course, by that time, most of the major players were dead. By 2 years. But yeah, somebody had, again, doing tape trading, somebody had put together like a little compilation for me. They had picked like 4 songs by each of 3 bands, and put them like on a 60-minute tape. They had some tracks by Ancient, but before the Vampire phase.
I love Svartalfheim. Their first album. No one talks about that. I love that record. It's just got a flow and a vibe to it. I dig it. I'm guessing
the tracks were from Svartalfheim. I do not know for sure. They put 4 Burzum tracks on it, and they were from different albums. It wasn't all from one of the releases. And then they had I think one song from Full Moon Mysticism and about three songs from this one on it. I ended up liking a lot of the material on the tape, but yeah, this was the one that kind of immediately jumped out at me. It's just like, holy shit, this is crazy. Just very, very, of course, high, velocity stuff. They had these crazy song titles like Unsilent Storms in the North Abyss. Trying to think what else was on that tape. It might have been As the Eternity Opens, I think was one of them. And so, yeah, those tracks clicked right away. It's just like, all right, I'm getting more and more interested. I had already picked up one or two black metal things, but this had to do a little bit more kind of the core sound we think of with those earliest 90 releases. What I had picked up so far, I think, was I'd probably picked up Samael Ceremony of Opposites, maybe Emperor's Night Side around that time. But yeah, this one is just like I'm gonna have to find that, and it had to be special ordered and all that because it was the mid 90s. But yeah, still one of my favorite black metal albums of all time. Just crazy, fast, intense, over the top. Very young 3-man lineup there for this album. Still a fun one to take out and just let it blast away sometimes. So I wanted to make sure I got one good solid black metal shout out in tonight, and that's the one I chose. Immortals Pure Holocaust.
Good one. Classic. Yeah, the Darth Vader's theme on there. Yeah, Wade. the band, we talked about it on Wednesday night. They never really fully took themselves so seriously. It seems like
they didn't. Yeah. It was interesting hearing y'all talk about that because like Jim was trying to work on like his the big four of Norway and stuff like that. And I think Immortal's usually the odd man out on that, and I think it's because of that kind of fantasy element that they weren't afraid to use, where the other bands, didn't really go in that direction. And that being a genre that takes itself sometimes a bit too seriously, Immortal feels like the overkill or the testament of the big four. They're number 5. Like, hey guys, can we hang out too? It's like, no, go do your weird Iceland made up fantasy world thing,
crab dances and shit. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, go make another GIF for everybody to meme on.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep with the black metal theme here. This is the last Behemoth record I care about, to be completely honest. This is Sventvith, Storming Near the Baltic. This is Behemoth getting as emperor as they ever got. This has got an emperor vibe to it. The early stuff was kind of raw. You could tell they were young, trying to figure things out, just kind of emulating the Norwegian style a little bit. As it grew, they started to develop as musicians. Last Epitaph Productions, I believe that was a German label. Anyway, yeah, this is the last Behemoth record I care about. Yeah, they had some cool when they started to tip into the death metal stuff. Inferno was that the name of one of the albums? That was the drummer's name.
Yeah, Inferno's the drummer.
He's an amazing drummer, and there's some good albums here. I've got some of the CDs, but whenever I grab for Behemoth, it's typically this record, to be honest with you. But solid Polish black metal with an affinity for the Norwegian. They're trying to be a little more atmospheric and complex on this one. Good record though. I dig it.
Yeah, that one is cool. I've spent some time this year finally poking around through more of the Behemoth catalog, and I like most of it. It's not up there with the standard bearers of the genre, but it's pretty good stuff here and there.
Yeah. All right, Dan. Save it from the black metal. Save it from the black metal.
No. Continuing on the black metal theme.
Right on.
Black Virgin, because how could it get any more black metal than this? And it's on Metal Enterprises.
There you go.
Yep. No, but seriously, this is one of the few really, at least in my book, really great albums on the very infamous Metal Enterprises label from Germany. And we could do a whole stream about that. Actually, someone else did that recently. But Black Virgin was, I think, a New York band. Am I wrong? Or Alan,
That
do you know?
sounds right. I'll double check.
Yeah, I think so. Or somewhere thereabout. They had like a 7-inch out in the early 80s and a couple of demos. And for some reason in 80, this is one of the early ones on the label. So I think it was in like in 87, they released their full-length album, Most Likely to Exceed. And I love the sleeve. The logo is perfect. I mean, if you have a V in your band name, you of course use a flying version of that letter. Yes, in the logo as well, and the sadomasochism picture because metal. Really cool sleeve, and the music of Black Virgin is sort of in the same style as we discussed with Carnage. This is very Venom, very sort of carnivore warfare, but in my personal opinion, maybe I don't dare to say that it's better than Venom, but of all the sort of bands in that similar style, these are my favorites. It's 8 songs, and I love all 8 of them. It's really like gruffy, really fucking cool vocals. A female drummer in a corset. Gotta be good. Actually, she's not very good, but it fits the music perfectly, so I don't care. And the music is gruffy, hardcore, fist in your face, raw, primitive heavy metal. Straight up there with Venom and Carnivore and bands like that. And I mean, you have song titles like Hand Over Fist. First to the Worst, Heavy Metal Mad. And I mean, it's very primitive. It's not any kind of metal that would ever come out on a major label in a million years. The tracks are so catchy. It's such a fucking fun party record if you want to play a pure fuck you, fuck off metal from like the 80s. This is sort of like the style that I think, bands like, the Swedish band Gehenna or some other, all this new bands from the post 2000s want to emanate when they want to be like these cool fuck off thrash guys. These guys never played thrash, but they made like really really nasty and dirty form of metal. And Black Virgin, I love this album. It's such a party starter. It should be in pretty much everyone's collection if you get a chance. It's been reissued. The original is still not super expensive, at least not here in Europe. But you can get a reissue if the original is hard to track down. And I will swear by Black Virgin, any time of the day, year or month. So, Alan, what do you think of Black Virgin?
It's a fun band, yeah, and you described it well. It's one of the, I don't have the album. It's one I always feel like I should be able to find pretty easy, and it never has. I've got the 7-inch single, which is still fun. But
the LP, I don't think the LP ever had any sort of US distribution, unfortunately.
Yeah, it just always feels like, because you're right, it's never been super expensive, and it doesn't feel like it should be as hard to find as it is. But it's another one that's just. It's also not the kind of album I really go out to must find, but if I ever came across it, I'd pick it up in a minute. I'll stumble into it one day.
It's very sing-along, fist in your ear.
Yeah, it really is the kind of thing you want to just be drinking lots of cheap beer and let everybody get sloppy drunk and just fuck yeah. Oh yeah, it's that kind of party. It's all about that.
Yep.
All right, Ellen.
All right, let's see. Next I have one I think Dan will really like. Dan, you might say this next one will blow your brains out.
Oh, brains. Oh.
He knows where I'm going with this.
Yes.
Here we'll do one with it's more of a white cover with black. We've done mostly black on black and white, but I guess this is white and black. Is it the other way around? Anyway, it's Germany.
A young Meatloaf is in that band.
It kind of looks like the guys who tried out for the first Danzig record and didn't make the cut. But yeah, actually German band, and this is a early one. This came out in '79 with the great name of Poison Noise, all one word, not two separate words.
Poison Noise.
Poison Noise. This is another one that is, yes, just, very crazy over the top sound. Given the early date, yes, it's, kind of a loud, noisy, hard rocking album. The thing that really sells it in terms of being, for a metal kind of audience is the vocalist, who is just the most gruff thing you'll ever hear. Yes. Rolling the R's every chance he gets. Just, so over the top in the vocal performance. When you first hear it, you will laugh and you'll just think, what the hell is this? And then you'll go back and just keep replaying it because it's just so fun, so good, so catchy. Just one of those random little known bands from the, late 70s German hard rock scene, which was I don't know any of the details on it. Other folks like, Rob, who you mentioned earlier, are much more into that scene. There was a lot going on because, Germany, if nothing else, through successful, there's going to be other bands present around there too. And Germany had things going on at the time, and you just can't go wrong with this one. You have let's pull some song titles for folks. You have, There Ain't No Running Away, They Who Will Creep at Night, Rock and Roll, Close to the End of the World. Great stuff there. Dead Man's Dream. Great stuff. Now, this is another one that's a pain in the ass to find the original of. It took me a long time to get one, but it's been reissued. Shadow Kingdom did a nice reissue on this years ago. It's on yellow vinyl, if I remember right. There's CD pressing of it as well, so not difficult to get if that sounds like something you're into. A fun little thing with the original. When I got this, I bought it from a Japanese collector. He had it on eBay. I somehow managed to end up getting the winning bid. I had emailed him when the auction was going on because I wanted to know if it had the lyric insert. It's supposed to have just like a real simple, typed out set of lyrics with it. And he emailed back and posted like on the auction. It's like, I'm sorry, but no, this copy does not have the lyric sheet with it. It's like, that stinks. I'd really like it with the lyric insert, but it shows up very rarely. I really would like an original because it's such a cool album. So I went ahead and bid on it anyway and ended up winning it. And when I got it, pulled the record out, checked it over, played it was all great. And when I was putting it away, I kind of just like, for some reason, like, let me just take a peek inside the cover. And lo and behold, it actually did have the lyric insert inside the cover. I don't know if the guy just missed it or forgot about it, but it did have the original insert with all the words on it. So actually, it worked out, and they all lived happily ever after because they had the lyric insert. But yeah, really fun album if you're into some, just if you can handle the really over the top vocals, you'll dig this.
Have you actually read the lyrics for some of those songs?
I have. It has been a while, but yeah.
I mean, you should be careful about even displaying them. For some of the themes and some of those lyrics are so off the board. It's crazy. But it's one of my absolute all-time favorite albums. It is the ultimate party album when you have like a metal hard rock party at home, and one of my favorite vocalists as well. I want to make a shout out for the reissue that Shadow Kingdom made, because there is the bonus LP with a live recording, and in 9 cases out of 10 when people throw in like a bonus live recording, it's usually crap. In this case, it is one of the coolest live recordings I've ever heard from this type of old underground bands. The live bonus LP is amazing and so well worth getting that version only for the live recording, because his vocals are even crazier, and there's several unreleased tracks on it, and yeah, the live recording is one of my favorite live albums, actually. But still, yeah, the Hands of Doom, for me, a total, life-changing album. I love the shit out of it, and it was actually recently reissued again in Sweden, on a Swedish label, the same label who did this Job Center Rejects compilations. The guy who has Sweden's largest record fair, LP, reissued it as well. So yeah,
Okay,
it's an album that's gotten a lot of love in recent years, and it's well deserved. Amazing.
Yeah, that's good. Because when I stop and think about it, it's probably been 15 years since Shadow Kingdom did it. So it may not be. I don't know if they have it in stock or anything anymore. So that's good that it's got another pressing.
All right.
All right, Marty, what have you got next for us?
I'll show Normie's stuff for those of you like me who did not go into the super deep stuff. Anyway, I got twofer, and we're gonna go Switzerland's Samael with Worship Him.
Nice.
And later on, the EP preceding Ceremony of Opposites, Rebellion.
Folks were asking for that in the chat earlier.
We've got start out there young, Hellhammer Worship. It's good. It's fun. Juvenile. It's good. I prefer Blood Ritual. I love that record. It's a great creepy ass, kind of feels like a first wave black metal record to me. And then of course Ceremony of Opposites. Man, what a amazing record. Then this thing comes out. The production gets a very digital sheen to it. Something is going on with the percussion. Their drummer Zai, the brother of Warflack. It says drum / programming. Eventually, like on Passage, the album that comes out directly after this, he decided to quit playing a traditional kit and program the drums, and then live just do some stand-up percussion type stuff. I mean, I end up liking this. I end up liking Passage as well, but I'm not down with the digital opt. I mean, I like drum machine bands, but when you put out Blood Ritual and you put out Ceremony of Opposites, then you go to this digital vibe. I guess they're trying to be modern, staying with the times, which is great. But in hindsight, it kind of bugged me a bit. But this is an EP. I Love the Dead as Alice Cooper cover, Into the Pentagram new version. So, great band, really. But these two had to come out. Fun stuff.
Oh yeah,
very cool ones.
Yeah, I used to have the the 7-inch Into the Pentagram. Bought it back in the days, and I totally fucking loved that single because it was so different from anything that came out back then.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I really loved the first album as well. But I never bought it because I was sort of in a different headspace as far as music went back then. But I eventually actually got to see the band live last winter in a festival in Gothenburg, the Abyss Festival, and I finally got to see Into the Pentagram live, which was cool.
Were they good? Were they good?
Yeah. I mean, they're a very different band from the kind of sound I grew up with, but yeah, they were good, and it was cool to see that track anyway.
Yeah.
But I have memories from that, that getting that 7-inch and the way it sounded like nothing like the thrash and
super evil.
Super
evil.
So fucking evil. Yeah.
All right, Dan, what you got?
Okay. Should we go back to Italy maybe? Yeah.
Sure.
I think we'll do that. And go with this really cool EP with a band with a funny name of Rollerball.
Oh, very nice.
Yes. This is a band that I was going to say they only made this EP. They actually made 2 EPs, but we'll talk more about that later. This came out in like 83 or 84, I think. And if you don't some of you might recognize this logo and layout and everything, and it's of course because they took it from the movie Rollerball, which I, of course, had to buy the soundtrack to because they're so fucking similar. Sci-fi post-apocalyptic movie. Musically, though, Rollerball was sort of like an eclectic sound. They had this sort of weird, warped, sort of like Italian darkness to them, sort of mixed up with like early Living Death. The vocals are really weird and skewed, like on the first Living Death album, with Toto Bergman on vocals. And all 3 tracks on this EP are quite different. I mean, Rollerball is sort of like the speedy new wave British metal, sort of Raven style track. Do You Know Alan is sort of the catchy hard rock track. And they close with, on the B-side, the track Escape, which is sort of like epic with this amazing whoa outro part. But it's all done with this insane, crazy vocals, which makes it so special. And they really don't sound like any other band at the time, because those crazy vocals are really, really unique. And I mean, perfect hand-drawn black and white sleeve.
It's a cool cover.
Yeah, and I mean, totally ripping off, Yeah, we'll not just only rip off the name, we'll rip off the logo from the movie, we'll rip off the design from the movie and everything. So that's...
Man, it really bugs me when bands put their name on the bottom and the title on the top. It's so confusing. It's a stupid aesthetic choice. I've never been down
not
with.
Following the modern rules, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, what's the band? Outlast the Game? Oh, wow, this Rollerball record's pretty cool. Yeah.
A warning, though, they did actually release they made a second release a few years later under the same name. I have it just for fun, but I didn't pick it out. They changed their style completely, and they became sort of like a new wave post-punk alternative rock band. And I mean, in a really weird twist of sounds, because it sounds not even remotely hard rock in any sense or form. I forgot the title of it, but if you see any other Rollerball album, avoid it. Like play. It has nothing to do with the really cool sounds of this one. But this EP, I highly recommend. It's unique. All tracks are special. Crazy, wild vocals, and a unique early European metal EP.
Yeah, excellent pick. And as Aaron says, yes, that band could only come from Italy, I think.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's good to know about the album, because I've never heard that other album and had always been a little curious. But
no, don't be curious.
I'll keep my distance.
Curiosity is bad in this case.
Good to know. But yeah, it's a fun album. My favorite track, I think, would have to be is Do You Know Alan?
Do you know Alan? Yeah,
why, yes, I do.
I like Escape, I think. So.
Wonderful fellow. Drop dead sexy.
Yep.
All right, Alan.
All right. Well, while Dan was talking, I got an email from a viewer in the UK who is watching live. And Dan, one of your longtime Corroseum acquaintances, the infamous Bigfoot Kit, is checking us out
cool.
live here tonight.
Hi,
so, yep. Kit,
hello.
Yeah. He should be on the stream. That guy knows his shit.
I have invited him. He's maybe we might get it to work sometime. He wasn't sure about the tech on his end, but he has an open invite if he wants to work on the tech issues and get it put together. He absolutely could come on.
You can do it on your phone. It works on the phone. Is it always optimal? No, but you can get a StreamYard app on your phone, and it's pretty easy. I just used it last weekend for a minute, and it works out pretty good.
Yes, for those unfamiliar with the name, Bigfoot Kit ran back in the Blogspot era. So like, 2000, the mid 2000s, Kit had the best blog for checking out, hard and heavy, unusual music. It had the best title, the New and Improved Live and Otherwise blog. But unlike most blog spot pages, most of them just, people just uploaded stuff and downloaded stuff. Kid actually spent like a month on each entry, looking up as much info as he could about each band, making sure he had really good high quality MP3s to post, pictures if he could find them at all. It was really like getting like an encyclopedia entry about each release, and a really wide range of stuff. Hard rock, heavy metal, 70s, 80s, 90s, all of it. Super nice guy. Yeah, we've been email buddies now for pushing 20 years. We've been meaning to email him here during the holiday season. So yeah, couldn't be happier that you're out there watching tonight. Hop in the chat and chat with folks if you'd like to.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm supposed to show a record now, aren't I? Okay, we'll show show this one. Another one that's more white with the black ink. This is a live Atlantean Codex recording. It's the Annihilation of something. They always title their live releases, after the name of the city or area they're playing in. So they're all German, or other European names, and they're in funny fonts.
Plus that font's stupid.
Yeah, the Annihilation of a place that they played
Koningsschaffen? Is it K or?
Yes. I'm just not even going to try that one. Anyway, the thing that's cool about this is this was kind of a self-release project when the band was still kind of in the up and coming phase. So it's a really simple thing, just plain white labels. The cover is not even so much a cover. It's more just like a sort of glorified one-sided insert of a thing. But it was a really limited press. If I can get the insert out of here. Let's see. So yeah, it's got kind of like a weird, there's just a stock piece of cardboard, but kind of like a little bit like an oversized OBI wraparound at the same time. Yeah, very odd packaging.
Huh.
But yes, they were, signed and numbered down here. So this was copy 73 out of 89. So they only made 89 of these.
That makes zero fucking sense.
All kinds of, just everything about it's kind of crazy.
0 cents. Why would you make 89 of them? It must be, I don't know.
Yeah.
Even Japanese Sabbath made at least 100 of their bootlegs.
Yeah, I know. And it pissed me off even more at the time because they had just advertised this here and there on some discussion forums and stuff. Maybe
Here we go. There's Mike is the German in the chat is correcting us here.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the help with that.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know if they had Facebook or if they were still, if this was probably after MySpace, but maybe for early Facebook. Anyway, I saw about it on the Shadow Kingdoms discussion forum because they usually would dip in there, to announce when they were doing stuff. I was like, oh yeah, we've got this out, only 89 copies, first come, first serve. So I quickly emailed them. I was like, I would love a copy of that. And they emailed back like, we're so sorry. You're like the 91st person in line or something. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. If they'd made 100, I would have gotten one, but they didn't. And I didn't.
Stupid.
So
89. Come on.
So weird. So anyway, yes.
Is it like a lathe cut or something? I mean, why would they do so few? It makes no sense.
These are fair questions, and I have no answers to them. But so yeah, anyway, I had to do it the hard way and buy it on the secondary market, which was not a fun thing to track down.
No. Especially when autographed.
Yeah, I'm guessing they did that for everybody. So this one, if I bought it from the original owner, it was from Jean Pierre because it says, "Hey, Jean Pierre." So Jean Pierre, if you sold this to me, thank you. And Jean Pierre, if you're not the one who sold it to me, I've got your record. I've got your record. Nah, 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 nah.
The sick monkey dance. I love it.
I can be a small, petty man sometimes, and I have no problem admitting it. But so yeah, just cool live recording, from a little earlier part in their career. Hard to get. You see them listed every now and then. When they show up, people nowadays want absurd asking prices, and they don't sell. A big take-home message. This is the kind of thing people will see it on eBay. And it literally will be like, buy it now, $1,100. And one thinks, oh, wow, that must be worth $1,100. it's not because nobody's paying that for it. People are trying to charge these nuts prices, but it doesn't sell. So no, it's not really, it's not $1,000 record. You can, hey, I can put it on Discogs tonight for $5,000. That doesn't mean it's worth that.
Yeah.
It's not by a long shot. I have seen a couple of other copies sell, and they do, they can get expensive, but they're not like, $1,100, $1,200 expensive. That's just not happening. So if you're putting your stuff online and if you actually want to sell it, you got to be a little more reasonable on the price. You can't just say that, oh, somebody else had it listed for this crazy amount, I guess I can get that too. The first person didn't get that, and you're not going to either. But yeah, obviously one of my favorite bands, and just kind of, a cool black and white relic from their early years.
Okay, Alan, so you didn't get that from a certain Swedish collector in trade? Or
I did not. Nope.
Okay, yeah, because I know you showed it on a different one of your streams, and a few months before that, a Swedish friend of mine told me that he traded his copy. So I figured, okay.
Oh, okay. No, I've had that one for a long time at this point, and no, I had to do the eBay route to get it. Sad but true. But yeah, no, it is funny for only 89 copies made. Yeah. You just mentioned one got traded. I bought that one. I've seen at least, I don't know, I want to guess maybe 5 other copies come up for sale over the years. So, for such a small print run, there's a reasonable number that have, been offered up for sale.
We probably know like half the people who got the original copy. So
we could probably track it down. We can turn it into like, that the Sex Pistols concert game and figure out, who was actually there and who the first 89 people in line were. Who got one when I didn't. Thank you very much. I'm not bitter about it. All right, Marty. What cool thing have you got next?
Well, this is certainly not a rare record, but this is number 352 out of 500. But one of my favorite Barney albums, Napalm Death, The Code is Red, Long Live the Code. This album and the one that followed it, Smear Campaign, are my 2 favorite Barney Napalm records. I don't listen to Napalm a lot, but when I do, it's this or the other record usually. Just kind of lightning in a bottle. They put out a lot of records during this era that just in one ear out the other for me. Something about this. Maybe it's a little punkier, a little catchier. The production had more of a live, aggressive tone to it. I don't know, but it's just the right mix of intensity and catchiness for me. This is some weird it's a red vinyl, red record that this cover folds out into a gigantic poster, which I never got that. Who in their right mind is going to take the cover, fold it out into the poster and hang it on their wall? I mean, God, it just doesn't seem right to me. But anyway, this is a good Napalm Death record. And there's a lot of consistency in their catalog, but this and Smear Campaign are an exception. They just a little more intensity. The songs just hit better for me. And like I said, I've got a million Napalm Death records, and I never listened to, not records, but CDs. I never really listened to them much. This is a band that's like a legacy band that I just don't care much about. It's weird, but when I do, it's sometimes this one, it's sometimes Smear Campaign. Both good stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I don't often listen to them, but when I take something out and play them, I think, oh yeah, this is really good. I should play this more often. And then I just don't.
Yep. Dan.
I was so tempted to start a discussion about why don't we play all these legacy bands albums? Could it be because they're not very? But I stopped myself there.
Well, there's a definite I mean, good is good, but there's always better, And as collectors, I mean, I used to do. I'm trying to break the habit, but if I liked one album by a band, I'd have to buy all of them. I just do. It's stupid. And then a band like Napalm Death. I mean, they've kind of done it all. They've kind of done all they're going to do. I think. I mean, yeah, they get Napalm's a band that does experiment sometimes, but I don't know. I kind of stopped caring a while ago, to be honest. And I don't know. Anyway, it's a good topic.
Yeah,
that'd be a good topic for discussion too. Bands that we don't care about but keep buying, or why don't we listen to legacy bands or shit like that? But anyway, you're up, Dan.
Okay. I think I'm gonna keep going on the really obscure track here. I have sort of like certain fetishes when it comes to like old metal collecting, and I mean black and white album sleeves, of course, is one of them. Another one is like a lot of people into the same, type of metal is the new wave of British heavy metal, and I'm also a compilation albums freak. Uh, I mean, because one of the main features of the Corroseum website is our compilopedia, our encyclopedia of pretty much all compilation albums released during the 80s and early 90s, which included at least one unique metal song. So I sort of come to collect that. So there's this like group of albums which, they check all the boxes. Like the new wave British heavy metal albums with, and also another distinction, these really weird albums with just sort of like half metal songs, half other stuff, where there were like 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 metal songs and then some other stuff. And there were a lot of stuff like this in the UK, but I'm going to pick a representative out of this set, and one of my absolute favorites. And we were talking about, because Alan was showing this really primitive sleeve on the Atlantic Codex album. Here's another great example of that one. And this is I think it's 81 or 82, maybe from London, was it? It's a compilation album called The Whinging Album, Clutching at Straws. And I mean, this, no metalhead in his right mind would pick this up if he, by any chance, would, come across it on a record show or whatever. But this is actually one of the more interesting mixed styles compilations. There were quite a few of them from the UK early 80s. It has, I think, almost half the album I would classify as metal or new wave British metal. It's like, maybe 5 or 6 songs which are like hard rock metal. But we were talking about sleeves, and the funny thing about this sleeve is that it's actually just a bloody Xerox. Like glued together at one end, and one of them is like a sort of an ugly Xerox lineup pictures in it and everything, and it's so bloody cheap. Probably made on a few hundred copies in back in I think it was London back at the time. But the cool bands on this one are the most classic one is of course a band called Tellurian or Tellurian. There are 2 tracks featured here were reissued on a 7-inch a couple of years ago. It's total UK doom metal. It's really cool doom metal. I would say it's even more traditional doom than compared to like Witchfinder General. More slower, a bit more troubly. And you have another band called Titan, which is none of the other Titans which released singles. The amazing Destiny track, and also War of the Roses with a band called Thor, which, I mean, any band called Thor has to be good. And there's, I think, there's, is it Acanthus, Wally of the Unknown, which is sort of like progressive hard rock, which is really good as well. So there's at least like 5 really cool tracks on this one, and it's one of those. It's just by pure chance that I guess Malcolm Macmillan, just who did the New Wave British Metal Bible, sort of like happened to come across this one, and it started to turn up on the radars of New Wave British Metal collectors, because I mean I'd say it's even better than stuff like Kent Rocks or other compilations like that. So Tellurian has been reissued. The other tracks, not so much as far as I know, but it's one of those ones I'm really happy to have found. And the crazy thing is, when I got it, it was in such pristine condition. I mean, this is like Xeroxed, and I was so happy when I got it. And I was going to take it out of the plastic, and that was a big mistake, because you know this phenomenon perhaps about, all these plastic sleeves. I even saved the plastic sleeves because it ripped off. It had stuck to the PVC sleeve. So now I have 2 sleeves. Great, huh?
Perfect.
Perfect. And this kind of plastic also sort of ruins the album, the vinyl, if you're really unlucky. My copy got, it has sort of it's like smoky patterns, but it plays great. But still, it was like when I took it out of the sleeve and I heard this scratching sound, I was like, no.
Oof.
So half the sleeve is here, the other half is here. But still, one of my favorite obscure new NWOBHM metal comps, even if it's only 5 songs. So well worth putting on the want list. And it might be expensive, but it's not more expensive than many of the 7 inches. And there's more cool tracks.
Yep. You'll pay more for some of the other compilations too, just because they're more known.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. I've never seen a real copy of that, so that's really cool to see.
Yeah.
All right, Ellen.
All right, we'll do a nobody knows it, but it's a fun one kind of choice. Coming out of the great state of Wisconsin, home of metal bands. We have Battle Axe with We're on the Attack. Gotta love some of the elements on this cover. I mean, first off, this is from '86, so certainly you could have, by then black and white covers had to look a little odd for full albums, but there you go. Weird composition here. It's like, okay, what's
Lizzie Borden's brother down there on the bottom, the drummer for Lizzie Borden. Yeah,
kind of, yeah. And like his band members, like, are you like choking your own band member? And if so, why? But the other thing is, it also, you just, here's the band name and the album title across the top. But they did actually have a logo for themselves, but it's buried down here at the bottom.
It's legible too. They could have put that at the top.
Yeah. I mean, why isn't that up here in the corner with On the Attack? Why do you have your name on the front cover basically twice?
Yeah, at least Rollerball had a big logo.
Yeah, and it's like, what's with this, guys? I mean, they had a big version of it ready to use because they put it on the back. So strange. Anyway, it's a pair of brothers, obviously, going for the kind of classic power trio lineup here. The sound, it's very traditional heavy metal. You've got an Accept vibe a little bit. I get the sense they probably were big Rods fans, going with that kind of same power trio formation. Great nicknames here. It's a pair of brothers, apparently. You've got Harlan Hard Rock Smalley, Mitch the Wheels Smalley, and Kenny, wait for it, the Rocking Smurf Lange.
Oh my God.
Now, when your stage name is Rockin' Smurf, you are taking home all the ladies that night.
That's right.
Anyway, so what can we say about this? It's just a lot of fun, quirky little things about it. The reason this one stays on my shelf, the reason I put it on my shelf and sought it out in the first place, there is one absolute barn burner of a track right in the middle of side A even the song title doesn't make any sense. The song is called Hats Off to Margaret, which sounds like it's something out of like a 1936 Frank Sinatra Easter musical or some kind of bullshit. And this song just absolutely flattens everything in its path. I mean, this is the kind of song you're supposed to literally, crank your Camaro speakers to 12 while you're doing donuts in the middle of the football field the night after prom while you're loaded on your PBR. it's just monstrous. They just howl through this song, gigantic power chords. This deserved to be played in front of 60,000 screaming fans on Marshall stacks that go from here all the way up. And I'm sure it never got there, but it is an amazing track for the style. I love it to death. It's one. Anytime I put together those playlists, it's like songs I want to go out and drive way too fast to. Hats off to Margaret. Of all the stupid song titles, is right there on that kind of playlist. So yeah, is this ever going to make the 10 greatest albums of all time type list? No, but it's fun, and despite their weird compositional choices and stage names and such, the album does know how to rock out pretty well. So I can dig a little bit of Wisconsin's Battle Axe.
Yeah, as someone wrote in the comments, they should have put only the logo in the front, and it would have been twice as much the coveted collector item.
It really would, yeah. A lot of these that put the band picture on the front, especially in black and white, they do not do themselves any favors.
No.
It doesn't bother me personally, but it does tend to make things look a bit dated or cheap. And they had a perfectly good logo. Use it. Missed opportunity.
Yeah. All right,
Marty, your turn.
Well, this is kind of cheating because it's the reissue cover, but man, I love the first two Pitch Shifter albums. This is Industrial, English, Godflesh Worship, except unlike Godflesh, these guys are a lot more crusty. There's an element of crust punk to this lyrically, and just the way the songs feel to me. Super. They hung out with the drum machine. They didn't do a lot of experimental layering or samples or keyboards or anything. It's just a drum machine and heavy, crusty industrial metal. It's really, really good. I'm going to do a twofer here because I know it's getting kind of late. In the same vein, this came out this year or last year. I can't remember. On Phage Tapes. This is Primitive Knot. You Are Metal. This is a silkscreen cover. Basically, this is in the Pitch Shifter Godflesh vibe. It's pretty plodding, straightforward, industrialized metal with a drum machine, super simplistic drum beats. The first half of this is really good. Side B, there's a really long kind of drawn out track they could have refined a little bit, but I like it. I like the style. I really enjoy early Godflesh. So, yep, they're still out there doing it in the style for sure, but monochromatic, gotta love it. But God, this Pitch Shifter, I see it and I get excited. I want to listen to it. And the one after the EP after it, Submit, what a great EP. So good, heavy hitting, awesome, heavy as hell, but super catchy as well. So,
yeah,
Pitch Shifter.
Good call. It's come up several times in the chat tonight. People are happy to see that one. Excellent choice.
Yeah.
I had my little period of industrial metal and industrial rock in the 90s. I remember them very, very well. It's a really, really cool and heavy band.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's time to. I mean, it's getting late. It's time to bring out the classic black and white sleeves of the 80s. One of these classic collector items or whatever. When this is probably one of the coolest looking black and white metal sleeves ever made. I mean, you can have a discussion of whether the music is great or not, but I think a lot of people has put this album on their want list merely because of maybe the band name, but it also was kind of cool. But the sleeve is just amazing, and of course we're talking about Zen Venom.
Yep.
I mean, look at that sleeve. Like
that's a cool sleeve. That's
not
really cool.
1, 2 dragons. Yeah. I mean, fighting over the sort of yin and yang symbol in the middle. Zen Venom was an Australian band. Released this mini privately in I think 88. Yeah. It's bit of an acquired taste. It's one of those where people tend to put into the niche of overrated rarities. I wouldn't really put it there because I think it's too unique to be ignored, and it's mostly because of the vocals, which are quite unique. This guy's vocal style, it doesn't sound very metal. It's not bad. It's not, I wouldn't say melodic. It's sort of monotonous and kind of laid back. It kind of reminds me of sort of like old new wave vocalists, like, you know, like Stan Ridgway from Wall of Voodoo or something like that, but it's in a metal sense. But I really like the music. I mean, I think all songs are cool. I mean, the song "Kiss of Death" is my favorite, of course, and I mean the title track is "From Another Planet." Yeah, it's it's cool, unique metal, and it's been reissued with a couple of bonus songs, which sounds like they were recorded pretty much maybe on the same session or pretty much close to the style of this album, which is sort of like you know, not thrash, but it's like US heavy power metal, a bit like maybe sort of like very early Nasty Savage or something like that. And they have this sort of like weird bendy sort of songwriting style. It's very unique. I think they turned out musically they turned out more original than I think was intended. So they sort of became original by mistake, I guess. And I like it when those kind of things happened in metal. And once again, because it's amazing and not at all as bad as some people claim it to be. Any thoughts, Alan, on Zen Venom?
I have not heard that one in forever, so I honestly don't remember much about it. I remember there are a lot of folks that basically say the only good thing about it's the sleeve, but there are a lot of people that love the music too. But it's been too long since
that's
I
the kind
heard
of thing you can say about, you know, this really generic stuff, you know, which sounds like everything else, only worse. But this one is a bit too flavored to be pushed into that that area.
Yeah, I need to go back and revisit that one.
Yeah.
All right, Ellen.
All right, Aaron's nudging us to show something rare. So,
oh, we haven't been. I mean, I haven't been, but you guys sure as hell have been.
He's wanting sort of a big monster one. I don't have nearly as much stuff as Aaron does, but I'll try to get one in here for you, Aaron. So yeah, we'll do this one. Yeah, let's do a 12-inch single with a black and white picture sleeve. Those are popular. A band nobody much ever heard of called Liquid Earth. California act.
It's like Carmen Apiece on drums or in the center there. Is that him?
Don't believe so. But yeah, you know, very you know, great look to the band. You know, this okay. You see this in the shelf flipping around. You're like, okay, this is interesting. Weird kind of logo though. So it's not jagged enough. It's actually kind of squishy looking. Trying to, you know, play into the whole liquid idea a little bit, I guess. So yeah, you're kind of like the name's interesting. The logo's weird, but the band picture looks kind of cool. So what do? Hopefully you buy it. Again, it's only a 12-inch single. You get 2 tracks. A very kind of another weird over-the-top kind of band. A little bit of that kind of strange outsider vibe to them. Cool songs, but they are a little bit, you know, the first time you hear them, it's a little bit head-scratchy just because you're like, all right, this is not Sunset Strip kind of metal. It's not Metal Blade kind of metal. It's like, what the heck were these guys doing kind of metal? It's almost closer to some of these weird bands like, you know, Max Planck or Sinner, the one that spells it XINR, which right away tells you, you know, some of the stuff's going on. But yeah, the bottom line with this one, why I was showing it for Aaron's kind of rare pull, Very few of these ever have shown up anywhere. The band also made a 7-inch single. Not a 7-inch version of this. It's a different record, different song on it. And that one's never shown up very much either. The handful of copies of this that have ever turned up, some of them, while they were in storage, wherever they got stored, were water damaged. And my copy does have a little water damage along the bottom edge. You can see where it's a little smeared looking there. I've seen copies a few of the copies are much, much worse than this one. I've seen a couple of copies, though, that are cleaner than this one, too. Mine's kind of, in the middle of the pack. It's on this little label. I don't know if it's Coop Records or Co-op Records. The way the logo changes colors in the middle, I've always kind of assumed it was supposed to be pronounced Co-op, but then
again, the records underneath is split too.
Yeah, so it's don't really know, and it's not like it was a very deep label with tons of references to look up or other albums put out or anything like that. So yeah, now the band did put some stuff out, online years later. When this was one that somewhere around 2010, 2009, somewhere in that range, one or two of these sold on eBay for pretty stupid kinds of money, and apparently the band kind of caught wind of it. So they put up some of their other old recordings on some different platforms where you could purchase them. I bought one of the basically anthologies they put together with some other songs, and some of them were cool. Some of them were a little, you could tell some of them were kind of unfinished ideas and whatnot. But there is some more Liquid Earth stuff you can hear out there. You can track it down to this day pretty easily. But yeah, this one's still very few copies have turned up. The 7-inch is equally a pain in the butt to find. So if you ever do happen to see a copy when you're flipping through stuff at Goodwill, Record Show or something, just buy it and you will be happy with the outcome. There's, it's very obscure. It's not like there's a ton of people looking for it, but it's been stuck on a lot of people's want lists for a very long time. So you will not, it will not be too hard for you to get some nice offers if you can ever find a Liquid Earth, either 12-inch or 7-inch. And the songs are pretty cool, by the way. This isn't one where it's like, oh, it's just rare, so people pay a lot for it. I describe the music as kind of weird and a little off the wall, but it's in the best way. It's still in a very heavy, I like that kind of way. It's not like in a, oh, this sucks and they don't know what they're doing way. So a cool unknown one and one of the real hard items to track down. So there you go, Aaron. There's the best I can do tonight.
Yeah, you really hit it out of the park there. How the hell did you find that one? Because that is, it turns up less often than Militia or Paradox.
Then Jesus. It turns up less often than Jesus.
Yeah, probably.
No, it is down there in the Militia Paradox kind of range. That is a story for another time. I'll be glad to tell you, but
I'm curious because you told me that the 7-inch has different songs. Isn't it the exact same song on the 7-inch?
No, I'll go. I forget the song title. I'll go pull the 7-inch, and we'll go ahead through our last couple. When we're done, if you can stay backstage, I'll show you.
I remember
7-inch and go over that.
I remember the A side was a bit too clumsy for my taste, but I strongly remember that Lion's Den, the B side, was really cool.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It's the better of the two tracks, but I like them both, but Lion's Den is better. But no, the single has one of the songs is the same, but the flip side of the single is not on the 12-inch. Yeah. But anyway, Marty.
It's hilarious that I'm doing this kind of on purpose. I did pick this record tonight, but you went to super rare, hard to find, scour the earth, never find it, and I'm gonna go with Scorpions, Love at First Sting.
I thought you might go with
you did that one
you
on the
In
last
Trance.
stream.
I thought you were going to do In Trance. That's cool.
I was 13 when this record came out. This is the first Scorpions record I ever heard. And I don't know what's more nostalgic for me, the side boob or the album itself. So I used to, look at this tape a lot and think, wow, she's really pretty. But yeah, I thought it'd be funny to pick this just because of the side boob. I always got it, and she's super hot. But Rocky Like a Hurricane, Bad Boys Running Wild. It's Scorpions that they're not most commercial, but they're heading down the path of media darlings.
Yeah, it's a fantastic album at the same time.
I like it. Except for the Michael Jackson riff.
I can do that one. I can handle that.
I still like it, but it's Beat It basically. But
Big City Nights. So there's all kinds of. That album is loaded. I mean, people can dismiss it for being too popular or too far from the '70s sound, but no, that album is it's stacked. It's a great listen.
Absolutely. Yep. Screw it.
Yep.
He shows rare. I'm going to mass marketed garbage. So whatever.
I thought you would pick in Trance. No, they're excellent albums. That is one of the best albums any of us have shown all night. If just pound for pound, song for song, there's nothing wrong with that. It absolutely should be there. Yeah, I was betting in Trance. I literally had it written down here. It's like he's going to show in Trance.
I need to find a copy of that because I have the cassette. That's my favorite Scorpions record. I love that record. So good.
It's good too.
Anyway, Dan.
Yep. Yes. Well, we got to keep picking the classics as far as black and white rarities go. This is one that is not very contested as far as being a classic. It's a US Mel mini album, which pretty much everyone likes who's heard it. It is a band from Chicago. Yeah, I think Chicago. It's a mini with a band called Tyrant's Reign. And once again, one of the coolest black and white album sleeves ever made. Totally hand-drawn. Could be a demo sleeve. Actually, it's been drawn with a really thick pencil. So I remember once I actually got the album, it was like, oh, wow, this is really raw. Because usually when you're hunting for albums, you see the small JPEGs or whatever. And once you get it, it's like, oh, wow, this is really... maybe they draw it in like half size or something. I don't know. But still, the motif and everything, it's absolutely perfect. One of the greatest black and white metal sleeves. And the music is, of course, perfect US speed metal. This is pretty much, the genre speed metal is always sort of hard to describe and discern from what is speed metal, what is thrash, what is power. But there are a couple of bands which everyone agrees is, that's speed metal, like Agent Steel or maybe Living Death or something like that. Tyrant's Reign is speed metal. And really great speed metal as well. Like 6 songs, and pretty much every song is great. I mean, there's maybe 1 or 2 tracks which sort of go into the basic mid-page metal, power metal style, but it pretty much has it all. Wailing vocals, great riffing. I mean, it's. I guess you could compare it a bit to Overkill, but catchier and more US metal, US power, less thrashy, I guess. And it was really great. As I managed to see them live, actually, at Keep It True many years ago, which was...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they did a great show over there. And I remember we ran into the bass player, after the show, and had a great talk. And it turns out, he was like 1 year older than me. So we came from sort of like the exact same, we talked a lot of metal, the same upbringing. We were singing along to like, Syndrome songs and everything. So that was great fun. And it's a classic. It's been reissued with bonus tracks and whatever. Anyone who claims to be a US metal fan or a speed metal fan and into that speed power US style, I mean, it's not original in any sense of the word, but there's a reason this mini gets so much love, and so none shall miss out, I think. What do you think, Alan?
Oh yeah, I agree 100% with everything you said. It's one of those. It's always been rare and kind of expensive, but it's one of those like Salem's Witch. It really deserves all the
No.
attention and accolades it gets. It's good stuff.
And one thing actually I forgot to mention was that it's actually one of the few U.S. private pressings which the band throw them out to fanzines. It turns up in fanzine reviews, which is very rare for these US private pressings. I mean, these guys actually circulated them in this sort of like fanzine underground, which could have something to do with them, being from Chicago, which had sort of a established underground scene, or having half the foot in the thrash scene. But they were a bit more ambitious than many other, like, even more underground bands from this period. And
that makes sense with something else too. Several members in that band had ties to other Chicago area bands that are pretty well known. Like several of those guys were in Warcry. Did a great demo. At least one of them was associated with Energy Vampires, the post.
Amazing Energy Vampires are fucking gods. Yeah.
Who put that Energy Vamp? Was that Shadow Kingdom that put that out?
Yep, Shadow Kingdom.
I remember that being. I remember the name and the really
totally unique band.
Yeah.
Yep. There was one other. Let me check over. There was another fairly well-known Chicago band. Some of those guys were associated with Warcry. Who's the third one I was trying to? Somebody was with Battalion. I mean, Battalion had overlap with Warcry. Winterkill as well. So, those definitely a lot of members in other projects that folks are familiar with there too. But the Tyrant's Reign, like you said, it really is one of those independent releases that lives up to all the hype.
Yes.
It's not just rare. It's very, very good.
All right, Alan.
All right, we're getting towards the end of the night, so got to show this one because it is one of my favorites. Not one that a lot of people know, and I've talked about it a lot before, so won't go in depth this time. But some folks may not have seen it if they haven't tuned in before. Out of the metal haven of Kentucky. We have Corroseum.
That you've showed that before. That's a cool wizard.
Yes. Yeah. Very cool black and white wizard Gandalf-y kind of cover. Cool band name, emotional adjustments, weird, lettering for the title and stuff. But very eye-catching for the cover. This is another one that just kind of falls into a little bit of, it wasn't a 3-man, but it has a little bit of that kind of power trio sound to it. A lot of big heavy power chords going on. Really good vocalist who can really belt out the lyrics, but not going over the top crazy or anything. But just a very fun album to listen to. There's a couple of slower, slightly moodier tracks too that have a little atmosphere to them, which work actually quite well to mix it up. But most of it.
North Carolina internet. The worst.
Oh, is he back? Nope. It's run by gerbils on a little spinning wheel down there. And
I literally have a gerbil and a spinning wheel in the next room. Maybe I should hook it up.
Yeah. Maybe we could broadband some action to him. Well, I guess I'll go. We'll stare at the frozen Alan there looking off in the distance. Well, I realized as I was going through my collection, I have not spun this record probably since it came out, and it's Splinters by Valenfire, a side project from Greg McIntosh from Paradise Lost. This is a project he started, obviously Paradise Lost was still running, but this is a heavier, he was kind of trying to deal with his dad dying, and he took over the vocals on this stuff. So there's a death metal element, there's a crust punk kind of element to it mixed together, and he's just got a really stately, deep voice, but you can understand what he's saying. Kind of death metal style singing, but this Valenfire stuff kind of takes it him back to the early days of Paradise Lost, where they were really kind of heavy death / doom mix, and then they got more gothic as they went. But yeah, I really like this project. I never heard the third vinyl record. I only have the first two. But yep, this cool cover. It looks like a crust punk record. You could tell these all these English dudes, they all kind of came from like Bolt Thrower, all those, they were all firmly rooted in punk and crust and stuff like that. So I like how they have stuck to their roots over the years, and it still spills over into the modern music that they're making. But I really like this project. I thought it was a really good, dark, heavy, excellent stuff. Enjoy it. I need to spin it again. I bought that record. I probably spun it twice and it went in the shelf, and that's how it goes, Dan. Once stuff gets filed away, it's kind of, it gets lost to time.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I mean the two first Paradise Lost albums are great, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely great. Yep.
I think probably Gothic is my favorite.
Mine too. That album would be so much better if their drummer was a bit better. But other than that, I like it. I like the feel. Lost Internet working on it.
Yeah.
So what you got, Dan?
Whoa, well, what we're gonna do? Okay, I'll do the weird one. This is another, favorite in the realm of the strange metal and unique sounding metal. It's a US band with the very weird name of Lester Maddox. And I think I'm not a US history buff, but I think wasn't Lester Maddox this sort of like 18th or 19th century like right-wing governor or something like that?
No idea.
Special political figure from like the 1900s or the 1800s. Anyway, has nothing to do with this band at all, as far as I know. I guess they just figured it was a fun name. The sleeve is, of course, great. I mean, Gothic lore, and not one, not two, but 3 knights on the sleeve. Just more or less. I mean, they're not doing anything in particular. Hunting down a dragon or, capturing maidens or whatever. Standing around, looking bored. Musically, this is not. You can't really compare this to anything that I can think of. I have been occasionally saying that Lester Maddox were sort of like the US version of Black Hole, but that doesn't give them justice either. They were actually self-proclaimed avant-garde metal, and there is actually a saying on the back sleeve that let's see if I can find the quote here. Technicolor, the masses. We hope to show and prove that there is no need for the techno-colored synthesizer dripping, overproduced, electronically layered, totally meaningless shit that the masses are being fed. The hardest task in achieving this goal was the choice of songs to use, etc., etc. Yeah, but they were totally like in their own little world. And if I would describe it, it is sort of like almost a couple of songs are sort of like folksy in the. We were mentioning, I forgot the band name again, the 70s band. Oh shit, I'm getting tired. Sort of 70s folksy stuff, and some of it is sort of like drony, very monotonous, not very traditional metal at all. Some of it sounds like 70s Pentagram, stuff like Starchild and Firegiver. They have a track called Egypt. The chains are off, not the chains are on, like Dio.
Dio, yep.
And that song is like total like weird Italian doom. It could be like a Black Hole or a Paul Chain track, and stuff like In the Heat of the Night is probably my favorite one. It's a really sinister album for being so white. And I mean, all tracks are unique. There's pretty much only 1 or 2 clunkers on it. and yeah, it is hard to describe. It's very catchy for being so. It is very simple. It's not sort of weird progressive stuff. It is very down to earth and very unique, sort of hard rock, sort of wanting to be metal, but doesn't sound like any traditional metal band at all.
What year did you say that hit?
86.
86. Okay.
And they made a second album in 88, which is the most boring, generic hard rock album I have ever heard. Or next to it is, I mean, the best songs on that album are worse than the worst song on this album. And in a weird way, you can sort of tell it's the same band, but it's like they scraped off all their originality and just went into the most generic shit you could ever think of. This album is a masterpiece, and I love it. The second one, I mean, it's so boring. But I think Lester Maddox, Gothic Lore is an absolute. I mean, everyone's got to hear it. If you like sort of obscure doomy metal, sort of like Black Hole or The Mesmerist or stuff like that, it's a must to. It's a must hear. Not everyone will like it, but everyone should hear it. Definitely. Yeah.
Right on. Well,
yeah.
I guess waiting for Alan to jump back in here. Hopefully he's coming.
Alan?
His internet died. Apparently, he said I'm working on it. So, okay, let's go to. I'm thinking these guys are from Quebec, but SDG Socia de Glaces. I don't know. It's French. There you go. For anybody that can say it properly, but these guys are a long-running Canadian black metal band. I think they're just a two-piece at this point, but a couple old guys. They just do it right. They're not necessarily groundbreaking. They're not necessarily super popular, but they've been around long enough where people know them, and it's really good. It's really solid, well-written stuff. And Sean Count Blaggerith used to have a label called Celestial Oak. He put this out. It's a reissue of Snowland. It's got the original recording on disc 1, and then disc 2, the band re-recorded it. So it's kind of a cool, and of course it's black and white all the way through. He did a really nice job on this packaging. Very cool. But yeah, solid Quebecois black metal, but not like Fortress where it's just fast and unrelenting. It's very much old school, second wave, very Scandinavian inspired black metal from Canada. This is always my favorite by them. They've got a bunch of records, but yep, black metal, black and white. Always gotta. You want to do one more and we'll wrap it? I hate to bail out on Alan, but you've been up all damn night.
We'll see. I have a few more.
Right on. You want to do a power through a couple of them? Just go for it.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick another 7-inch because sometimes you just need a reason to talk about like a favorite release. This is one of my maybe as far as private thrash metal 7-inches are not that common when you think about it. I mean, at least they weren't in the 80s.
Thrash metal 7-inches?
Yeah. I mean,
you know what? You're right. You're right.
Because death metal was a 7-inch genre. I mean, there was so many early death metal singles. And then before that, we had, NWOBHM metal, Swedish metal, US metal, thrash metal, 7-inches. Yeah, there were a few in the, late 80s, early 90s. Of course, or a lot, but not as much as the other genres. But one of my favorites in that narrow genre was a Finnish band called Protected Illusion. I picked this up from the band themselves on a train on my way to a classic old Swedish festival called Bergslagsrocken. And this, first of all, it's a great black and white sleeve.
It's very cool.
This, I don't know if I think it's a woman. It's called Swimming in the Moonlight is the title. And this sort of burning zombie woman burning and standing in front of a sea and a in a sunset of some kind, and it's thrash metal. It's really fast. It's really brutal. Sort of reminds me of Sadus a lot, but it's catchy. It's sort of like, it's Anacrusis catchy, but not Anacrusis progressive, but at Sadus speed. Really cool songs.
Wow, that sounds really promising.
And there's like 5 songs on it. And I think none of them, the first song, well, there's an intro / method of manipulation, that's 5 minutes, but the rest of the songs clocks under 3 minutes. And this is one of those, you can probably still get this really cheap, and it's 7-inch, or you could call it a mini, because fuck it, it's 5 songs. Go out on Discogs and just buy this one if you like fast thrash, which has their own sound, really cool songs, catchy ones. The title track, swimming in the moonlight, is amazing. It's one of those little hidden pearls that no one ever talks about. I mean, absolutely positive I'm the first one on YouTube to ever talk about it.
I've never even heard of it or seen
it. I haven't checked, but I don't think it's very expensive. I mean, it might have been like a couple of tens of dollars, but I mean, it's no official rarity in any sense. So yeah,
I wrote them down. I mean, you said a lot of band names there that I like, so I'm going to definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Got a couple more.
Let's do the 7 inches. I mean, when we were talking about 7 inches with great sleeves, of course we have to do like one of the greatest 7-inch sleeves ever, which is of course the Death SS single. Everyone loves Death SS, of course, and I mean today, I mean you can. I mean I have a bootleg T-shirt of this one, and people are fairly familiar with Death SS. But Alan. But when you think about it, this one was released in 1983. And I mean, look at this sleeve. This looks so much like mid-90s black metal. And it was released in 83. It is so much more evil than, I mean, the only thing that even looks remotely as extreme as this was probably like Hellhammer, and it was released the same year as the first Hellhammer EP. So and I mean the music is of course great. I mean all 3 tracks, especially I mean Inquisitor is the big hit on this one, but I mean we have Chains of Death and Schizophrenic as well, but the Inquisitor is one of the greatest tracks. And one of those amazing sleeves, evil satanic metal way before its time. And I mean, imagine finding this in 1983 while looking for Twisted Sister 7 inches or Mötley Crüe or Rat or whatever. I mean, Metallica hadn't released their album internationally by the time this one came out. You know, maybe Venom with a sort of like more primitive satanic artwork, but finding this one, I wouldn't even have dared to buy it back then. It looks so fucking satanic.
It'd be a cool shirt.
Amazing sleeve, such a cool single. And we all love Death SS. No need to talk much about the music. So,
Alan, what happened?
Can y'all hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Apparently some of the AT&T lines have gone out in the neighborhood because the computer's fine, the home internet stuff is working, but we're not getting any signal from any of the local directions. So I had to pull this up on my phone and just connect directly. But hey, if it's working, it's working. Dan, does your Death SS, does it have kind of a weird sound defect in the production?
It's one of those copies, unfortunately.
Yeah, mine is too. I know when I got it and heard it for the first time, I was like, something's wrong with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that record,
it's infamous for, I think it's the B-side, which has this sort of pressing defect. There are supposedly a few copies which doesn't have this defect, but they are even more rare.
Okay. I've never come across anyone who had one without the defect, so I didn't know if it was the whole print run or only part of it. But yeah, excellent record nonetheless, and hard to find regardless.
Oh.
Did you want to finish your thought about the wizard with the battle axe, and we can call it, Alan? It's been going on 4 hours, and Dan would love to go to bed.
Yeah. I had nothing else. I'll show one last one and call it there. Another fun one here is Shadow with Iron Umbrella. This is an unusual one because
umbrella.
Yeah, it's released in Germany, but it's by Americans. It was basically recorded by a group of American soldiers who were stationed in Germany in the 80s. And yeah, I guess, when they weren't doing army stuff, they actually put together a band, rehearsed, and actually pressed up an album. So I don't know why in the world they came up with the title Iron Umbrella. I've always wanted to think that it was some kind of joke about like the Iron Curtain, since they were stationed in Europe during the Cold War. Maybe I'm trying too hard to make sense of it. Nevertheless, it's a really cool album. Pretty short, but just very straightforward, cool, pure sounding 80s heavy metal. It's another one that had a pretty small print run. Given the circumstances, that's understandable. So does not turn up very often. Always liked the cover image with the bat kind of logo to it. But yeah, just one more final example of a cool sort of unknown black and white album cover from the American by way of Germany heavy metal scene. But yeah,
same as the Saber album as well. Was pretty much the same.
Yeah, Saber did that. There were a few that did that. There was one band from like Indiana that went to South America and got their album pressed down there somewhere. I'm forgetting the name of the band right now. It's got a very simple cover. Oh, it's not going to come to me right now, but yeah, it has a very, very simple cover. It's something like Airborne.
No, RAF, yeah.
RAF, that's it. Yes,
it was released in Peru. Yeah.
Peru. Okay, I could not remember which country it was, but yeah, somehow they went from Indiana to Peru and got an album put out. So gotta love the story. But yeah, I'm happy to call it there. Marty, do you have anything to wrap up on?
I got stuff, but it's we're fine. It's
okay,
fine. Well, Dan, thank you again for coming. Again, I'm glad you have a list of stuff you want to do, because it'd be great to have you back, of course.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely get that going coming into the new year. Man, this year is pretty well shot in the head.
Just about, yeah, wrapping up pretty quickly. But yeah, and thanks to everybody in the chat for hanging out. Sorry for my technical issues there at the end.
They happen. No big deal.
But yeah, lots of as everyone can see, the black and white theme really does go in all different directions in heavy metal. It's not just a 7-inch thing or just a black metal thing. It's a style that's been used to very good effect in lots of bands, lots of genres around the world for decades. And yeah, it's just a pretty cool look and a fun topic.
Do you have anything you want to promote or coming up for you, Dan? You want to direct people to that direction?
Apart from just the Corroseum main page, well, I have a couple of projects coming up, but they're still a bit secret. So hopefully until the next time, if there is a next time, I will have something special. But
there'll be a next
time.
I
mean the reviews, our 7-inch US 7-inch thing, which Christian is doing, is growing. The German metal encyclopedia keeps growing. Fanzines keeps getting added more often than once a month. So yeah,
right
check
on.
out and link the site, please. Always appreciate that.
Yep, the link is in the description for sure.
Yeah.
Show notes for us. Review, don't have one yet. Wednesday night we're talking
Cryptworm.
Oh, are you? Who is?
Simon's working on a Cryptworm, so we might have that next week.
Right on. It might not be Monday, but there'll be one next week at some point. And Wednesday night we're talking about Today's the Day in the Eyes of God on the Album Club, and Friday is S. Craig Zoller's return We're going to be discussing and ranking the Sirith Ungol, or Kirith Ungol, as Alan prefers to say. And we're going to be talking about their discography. That'll be a fun. We'll be hearing a lot of bad singing by S. Craig Zoller, I'm sure. I mean, good singing. Sorry, Craig. You sound glorious. And yeah, that's it. Anybody have anything else before we jump?
I think that's it. Thanks again to everybody for watching. And Dan, thank you so much for joining.
Don't hang up, Dan. Everybody, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week. Have a great one.